Imagine waking up one day, opening your computer, and seeing a recruitment email from a company that's like a daydream come true. What would you do? If it's too good to be true, it's gotta be a scam. But before the protagonist could even react, the online recruiter popped up rambling on about their beloved boss, the first one to speak up for the Daydream Corporation. What kind of company is that anyway? Isn't it that place selling super effective hair loss treatment? Famous for its incredible hair growth results, and Din, not missing a beat, chimed in, "Buddy, I heard they're a pharmaceutical company focused on skincare and cosmetics. Instant results no matter how hard you dragons try," they added. As the duo finished their intro, the system exploded, blowing the two cheerleaders aside as a massive headline appeared. Wait, there's more, not to mention a flashy ad that probably didn't even get approved. By the Ministry of Industry and Trade, they're just putting out wild claims like, "We provide every kind of medicine you could ever need." And the next line was even crazier, "We are a magical pharmaceutical company specializing in miraculous elixirs." But thankfully, that was all there was to it. The Ding-Dong duo stepped into the wings for their finale. "See you all at Daydream Corporation." It was time for them to head backstage, because the next moment belonged to the big boss, Kim Tae, stepping up to the mic. The stage lights hit him, making him look all shiny and glamorous, but no amount of glitter could hide the fact that this recruitment was clearly a total scam. "You are the chosen candidates." As Sun stood among the 10 applicants, he frantically tried to organize the chaotic thoughts swirling in his head about this Daydream Corporation. It was a name he knew all too well. A supposed magical pharmaceutical company that could create anything. His train of thought was suddenly cut off by a voice. Kim Tae's voice boomed up to the ceiling. "Today we have gathered the most excellent recruits here." He didn't care if the applicants actually needed this job or not. He just excitedly moved to seal the deal. "Congratulations, everyone. You have all been assigned to the Field Exploration Team." Meanwhile, the Field Exploration Team at Daydream Corporation was one of the 5 divisions. Under the development department of this massive power in the horror universe, a team famous for being the company's infamous Suicide Squad. That sketchy reputation alone sent everyone into a panic. Field Exploration Team, I've never heard of such a team before. Me neither. Someone even asked the simple, critical question, does a pharmaceutical company really need a team like that? Sun finally realized he had walked straight into a full-blown pyramid scheme. He couldn't believe they were holding a literal death game right during orientation just to weed out new hires. This was insane. Almost immediately, his feet started moving as fast as his thoughts. "I need to get out of here now." Just at that tense moment, Kim Tae's voice echoed again. "However, before you are officially hired." That vague tone immediately sparked a wave of suspicion. "What is it now?" Sun stared at the door that had slammed shut right in front of him. He was already fed up, but then Kim Tae added, "There will be a short probationary evaluation. This will be an absolute assessment, based entirely on actual ability to evaluate everyone fairly." Kim Tae snapped his fingers click while his words didn't pause for even a second. "We need everyone's enthusiastic participation, understood. We will deal with anyone who tries to slack off." As his words fell, darkness engulfed everything. Everyone started freaking out again. Did the power go out? Why did the door slam shut just now? I think they're about to start another presentation. But the person who made that guess suddenly changed to a more anxious tone. "Oh wait, don't you hear that sound?" Everyone felt their bodies lurch as if losing gravity. Except for Sun. Everyone else was leaning left and right due to the intense force manipulating the space. After a few seconds of silence to let the shock wear off, an announcement echoed through the space. "Dear passengers, thank you for using the Abyss Transit Service today. This train will not stop at any stations. To ensure a pleasant journey to your final destination, please listen carefully to the following announcements." Everyone looked at the text on the board. Seeing the next station sign, they couldn't help but whisper to each other to find clues. What is this, a subway? Is this some kind of VR thing? Are we actually moving? The door won't open. Someone even imagined a wild scenario. Is this some kind of high-tech gear? Or maybe some sort of room escape game? Ignoring the clamor of the people around him. Sun, remained calm. "I'm denying everything in my head. This isn't some advanced tech, and it's definitely not one of those escape room games, but he keeps that to himself, keeping his thoughts to himself as anyone would. Lost in his own head, who could have possibly seen this coming? That applying for a simple job would drag me into this insane, twisted game. The recruitment notice wasn't even professional looking. It looked more like an anti-drug PSA from the year 2000, a total daylight dreaming scheme by the group from 2000X. 2000X was hiring during the first half of the year, and that haunting memory flickers in Sunum's mind again, deepening the name Daydream in his brain, even his position. The title feels more ominous than ever, weighing heavily on him, and the field exploration team and the death game, Sunum's anxiety finally grinds to a halt. Giving way to the announcement echoing through the train car, the next stop is Melancholy Station. His mind unconsciously repeats the fact Melancholy Station. Then, without a hint of hesitation, he steps right out. It turns out Sunum is the only level-headed person here. Once he realized the bitter reality this new job brought, I'm inside a ghost story. He thought a realization accompanied by a notification chime that makes you wonder if it's a warning or a prompt. Welcome to the Abyss Transportation Agency. The dimension shifts to a suffocating, familiar urban landscape where Chiho is walking through feeling heavy-hearted. The walk home was miserable. I'm unusually exhausted today. With a slumped, weary posture, her internal state is just as heavy. I should just go to sleep as soon as I get home. Wait, I still have laundry to do. Chiho's eyelids are fighting each other until she slips into a haze. After dozing off like that, she wakes up and finds herself inside a subway car. It looks like a normal commute, but Chiho is suddenly jolted awake. Where on earth am I? She takes in all the abnormalities around her and realizes in a panic that something is wrong. No matter how fuzzy her thoughts are, she knows deep down that everything is closing in on her. Strange, truly. Back to Sunum, he is scrutinizing the list of employees scribbled all over and calmly deducing, it seems like the company is planning to screen new recruits through this ghost story. The announcement speaker blares again like a persistent debt collector. The next stop is Melancholy Station. Melancholy Station. Passengers whose final destination is Melancholy Station, please exit the train according to the instructions. When this ghostly train finally stops, the speaker continues. The platform screen doors are opening, but while everyone else is dazed, it adds a threatening line. The doors will close in 30 seconds. There is no turning back. Sunum stares at the flashing display in front of him, unconsciously muttering, Melancholy, melancholy. Around him, curious people start running their mouths at full capacity. It just looks like a regular subway station, doesn't it? Can't we just not get off here? They said the doors are about to close. Shouldn't we hurry up and get off? The noise ringing in his ears makes Sunum curse inwardly. Damn it! To make matters worse, that guy Guang Ha next to him is unusually calm. Apart from the weird station name, everything still looks normal, right? He boldly places his hand on the door and loudly declares, I don't think we should step out. Sun, out of a sudden moment of kindness, opens his mouth to warn them. You heard what they said. That's Melancholy Station. In Korea, what kind of station name is that anyway? Not only does Guang Ha argue back, but Suhan next to him chimes in as well. No. I mean, that's true. But will you take responsibility if we stay here and end up in trouble? Before Sunum can even retort, another calm voice cuts in. Hey! Sahan, who knows when he even appeared, suddenly stands by him to warn the group, I think this guy is right. First, we should wait and see how things play out. No sooner had he finished speaking than the speaker echoed through the space, doors closing. It's unclear who led the charge, but they managed to leave behind a desperate scream. The doors are closing, just get off first. Dongsu, even though he ran with Olympic-level speed, is still left pressing his face against the cold door. He watches the Guang Ha group lounging outside, sweat pouring off him in waves. Dongsu pounds frantically on the door and sobs in despair. I didn't make it! Damn it! Yet instead of looking at his own failure, he throws that bad luck blame towards Sunum. Damn it, thanks to someone, that's exactly what happened. Sunum hears it clearly but doesn't reply because he's lost in a daze. I understand their feelings. They probably just want to throw everything away and run. But suddenly, the display board outside the station flashes lines of text, goodbye, in a red as vibrant as blood. Suhan, who quickly got off with Guang Ha, looks around. Just as he uneasily asked if the people remaining on the train would be all right, he rubbed his aching neck and replied indifferently, that's their choice. They'll find their own way to deal with it. Guang Ha didn't realize everything around him was slowly melting. He was only focused on gloating and mocking those unfortunate souls on the train. Exactly. They should have gotten off when I told them to. Just standing there watching, they're only going to end up in a sorry state. But it's been 2 hours, right? His next words were as mushy and limp as his own body had become by now. Suhan stared at the change in Guang Ha, momentarily struck dumb by the sheer horror of it. In the blink of an eye, everything, including the people around him, was dissolved by that ghastly liquid. It took Suhan a long while to find his voice again, and he stammered out, What is that? He didn't dare linger, spinning around to run in the opposite direction. Finally, Suhan had a moment of brilliance when he noticed something coming from the ceiling. Something was lunging down from the ceiling. As he ran, he screamed at the top of his lungs, "Something's dripping down from the ceiling! Help me!" But those cries met the same fate, dissolving right along with everyone else. It seemed Sion himself was aware of the catastrophic situation outside. He instinctively squeezed his eyes shut as an act of memorial for the unlucky ones. Even so, it appeared that from the very start, Sion never intended to stop them. That was the destiny of those who chose the wrong answer, and the same went for those left on the train. The new employee's trial period had begun. Outside, that mushy liquid was now tinged with the metallic scent of blood while the train stood firm like a wall of bronze. It slowly began to roll forward to the sound of an announcement that the train was departing, and to better understand this story, let's look into the Daydream Corporation. In truth, this place holds jurisdiction over the darkness. In other words, the darkness is actually ghost stories, and employees of Daydream are sent into ghost stories to carry out their missions. Naturally, the new employee's trial period also takes place within a ghost story, so the announcement coming from this eerie train now seems very fitting. The train is departing from Sorrow Station. For a comfortable journey to your destination, please pay close attention to the announcements. In a life-or-death survival format like this, there are always those who can't handle the pressure and start screaming like mad. What are we supposed to do now? Did someone really just die? And for what reason, too? Siana managed to remain unperturbed amidst the chaos. In reality, it was simple. Honestly speaking, I'm in a more advantageous position than the other new employees because I've grinded through the entire encyclopedia of that ghost story. So everyone has the same question, right? Then wouldn't you be fine? If you're having that same thought, then you're just like every other reader out there. That's what people might think. A typical overpowered protagonist transported into the world they love, holding absolute information advantages and monopolizing every future opportunity and item. Sion used to daydream, thinking, if I could become someone like that, how amazing would it be? But in this world, since when has there ever been a free lunch dropped right into your mouth? There is only one problem, a core issue that Sion himself is trapped in. He literally cannot stand scary things. On the outside, Sion looks calm, but inside he is silently screaming in a frenzy. Me, a ghost story, a subway train. Me, endless weeping, a field expedition team. Me, that's right. The cruel reality has proven that Sion is a total coward. Text is fine. He can read it with interest, even excitedly giving a thumbs up and loudly shouting, Kim Sion likes this. However, the moment it turns into an image, he is a complete chicken who cannot handle it. The proof is in the illustration. Kim Sion had fainted. Even while reading the encyclopedia, if a scary background image appeared or background music started playing, he would cover everything up, leaving only the text to read. Even on video apps, Sion would click not interested just because of the thumbnails. Even when sending ghost stories himself, he couldn't bring himself to insert a single picture. If the ghost argued that a ghost story needs images to increase the resolution, Sion would loudly retort, I'm sorry, but I'm a coward, so I can't look at images from any ghost story. The stubborn ghost would argue back, I am the ghost story that you wrote. Sion, with even greater stubbornness, would immediately brush it off. I can't break my rules. Even among his friends, they were crazily discussing this hot topic. Is it true that Kim Sion turned down his crush when she asked him to go see a horror movie because he was too scared? No way, Sion, your name literally means goosebumps and you still can't even watch a horror movie. He, having no other choice, replied, You want to die? The other side read Seonum like an open book, and collectively replied dismissively, My bad, my bad. Just as he was in despair, a reminder flashed in Shonam's mind. Think back to what was written in the encyclopedia. It turns out the field expedition team is a major force in the ghost story universe, one of the top 5. Part of the development department at the Daydream Corporation, a tragic group also known as the Suicide Squad. Sion despairingly zooms in on the words Suicide Squad to the largest size possible. And then he painfully realizes I'm doomed. There are currently 8 survivors left in this carriage. Just then the announcement speaker chirps again. Next stop, Grudge Station. Grudge Station. The doors will open on your right. Sion doesn't even bother to lift an eyelid, just dazed and wondering to himself, Grudge this time, huh? He looks at the box sparkling in his hand and silently makes a wish in his head. Just kill me already. But the light emitted from the box is too blinding, and it finally catches Seonum's attention. It turns out there's a very eye-catching, inviting line of text written on it. First-class reality gift box from the ghost story universe. Seonum blankly lifts his head and repeats the words in his mind, thoroughly confused. Ghost story universe. Reality gift box. He immediately scans his surroundings, and even more questions pop up. Am I the only one who can see this? But right in front of Seonum, Seon is surrounded by people asking with concern, "Are you okay?" "Slowly, let's get you up." Seonum quickly touches the text with extreme caution, thinking, just stay quiet and touch it without drawing any attention. The stack of paper immediately flutters in midair as if a strong wind had blown through. Then Seonum instinctively raises his hand to catch the item that falls out. Once he takes a close look at the gift he received, he curiously blurts out, "A phone stand." Finally, Seonum realizes the familiarity of what he just received. This is definitely a souvenir from the ghost story universe, and it's exactly the one I bought. Suddenly, time feels like it was hit by Thanos' snap. It madly runs backward to 15 hours ago, when every digit on the clock hit 0. Space also becomes warped as if someone is going through a tribulation to be reborn. A few hours ago, an eerie yet brief voice suddenly echoed everywhere. "Welcome, explorer, to the abyss." It turns out this is just a shopping mall, and that creepy sound was just a high school girl teasing her friend. Did I scare you? The girl who was scared to death a moment ago now has the energy to snap back. So annoying. No one pays attention to the Apocalypse Prophecy Ghost Story Universe sign. It's flashing like a death warrant above Seonum's head. He also happened to pass by and realized it was a pop-up shop for that very thing. Apocalypse Prophecy from the Ghost Story Universe is a web-based ghost story universe with the concept of exploring various anomalous phenomena called the darkness. And here some fan has been deeply immersed in this universe. The cashier looks at Seonum's overflowing basket and kindly suggests, "Would you like to buy a waist-sized tote bag to hold these souvenirs as well?" He goes along with it. "Sure, I'll take one, thanks." But the people behind him can't help but whisper, "Is he a scalper? Isn't he just a reseller?" Seonum carefully pulls his hat down lower and silently retorts in his heart, "I already told you I'm buying these for myself. I even had to use my annual leave to come here." To be more specific, he even wants to add, "Actually, I came here last week too." But there was a lucky draw event, and due to the social face-saving issues of an office worker, Seonum had bitten the bullet and skipped it. I couldn't force myself to participate in that. Even so, he is here now, because his passion drove his inner self, and this pop-up shop closes tomorrow. So if he doesn't play now... Plus, the staff member pokes her head out to add, "The lucky draw event ends today. Would you like to participate?" Not knowing what possessed him, Seonum loudly shouts, "Yes!" Thanks to him, the clerk successfully reeled in a sucker. She skips away happily. "Please follow me this way." Seonum follows behind sullenly, but doesn't forget to add, "Thanks." Soon a voice urges him in his ear, "All right, let's start the lucky draw." Apocalypse Prophecy from the Ghost Story Universe. The prize tiers are set for each slot, so just press the button to stop whenever you want to. Seonum, embracing a hope-for-the-best mentality, decisively presses it. Regardless, he'll probably only win a consolation prize. But even that is better than getting nothing. As the wheel spins crazily, his mind spins with it. The 7th prize is a notebook, right? At least I should get that and go home. But who knows what kind of luck he had. The arrow stops perfectly on the first prize slot. Seonum is shocked into a daze, blankly questioning his own conscience. Really? The staff member seems to read his mind, so she doesn't hesitate to jump in, confirming with excitement. "Congratulations! That's the grand prize, the first prize. Come. Please accept your first prize reward, the reality gift box." Even with the hot item in his hand, Seonum still can't shake his doubt. Is this for real? The staff member pulls him out of his daydream just in time by suggesting, "We also need to personalize the souvenir on the spot, so please tell us your name." Out loud, Seonum subconsciously mutters, Sure." But inside, he has even more doubts. Personalized souvenir on the spot. Along with the background music, his name Kim Son was announced, and as his employee ID card slid out, a new notification followed. Everything about creating your own character in the team felt so natural that it wasn't until Sunum held the finished ID card with his name on it that he realized, stunned, is this an employee ID? Just as he was bewildered, The star employee popped up again like a cheerleader saying, "The Daydream Corporation is one of the 3 most famous powers in the universe." The Ghost Stories series, of course, Sunum knows it. It's a classic trope, a massive corporation that builds its business on ghost stories, and within that is the Field Expedition Team. The team specialized in being worked to the bone to investigate anomalies at any given moment. Because of that, it seems many big-name characters belong to this team. The employee didn't notice the reluctance on Sunum's face and continued to cheer excitedly. "I'm really looking forward to seeing how employee Kim Son will play his part. How active he'll be in the world of the Ghost Stories universe. Do you like it? Will you cherish it?" He gave a half-hearted yeah to brush it off, but deep down he already had a plan. I need to shove this somewhere out of sight as soon as possible. But just at that moment, Sonam's mind was struck by a piercing accusatory voice, "Liar." The space around him instantly spun and was replaced by a gruesome, eerie atmosphere. Suddenly, dizziness overwhelmed Sonam and his vision went black. Sonam squeezed the object in his hand tighter and silently regretted it. When I opened my eyes again, I was inside the lecture hall. The memory phone stand is an item of a high tier. It appears in the Ghost Stories universe. When attached to a smartphone, it perfectly displays the text the user remembers in an organized format. Sonam rummaged through his pockets, his mind busy calculating how to use this item. This phone stand? It's an item that displays memories as text. Without hesitation, Sonam attached the stand to his phone. The moment the two merged, a light as blinding as the sun, it was so bright it almost blinded him. It took a long while before he could read the dense lines of text appearing on the screen. "Welcome to the Abyss Transportation Agency." I fell asleep, and when I woke up, I was on a subway train. It felt like my commute home, but for some reason, strange station names began to ring out. This was the synopsis of a ghost story from the Ghost Stories universe. The ID code for the Daydream Corporation is D16. A crazy ghost story that boasts a survival rate far lower than the other dusk-tier horrors written in the early days forever and ever, and the Field Expedition Team. I must endure suffering forever. A total of 56 expeditions have been recorded. Sonam's inner voice screamed like crazy, "It actually works." The text from the notes I only vaguely remembered appeared on my phone screen in perfect detail. The Ghost Stories universe you just stepped into is a collection of hundreds of ghost stories where many people once burned with creative passion. Just remembering all those ghost stories at once is hard enough, and because you have to figure out survival methods on your own, it's difficult to immediately find the right answer for different situations. But if I have this, it's clear that God didn't just give Sonam a golden hand, this is the legendary diamond hand. He immediately started tapping away on his phone screen. The first thing I need to find right now is... Sonam's fingers flew, you couldn't even see a blur, searching for more info on past escape cases until he felt he had enough data. Only then did he stop decisively. Sonam pondered bringing the phone to his lips, fiddling with it, then silently breathed a sigh of relief. Got it. The notification over the speaker kept pestering him like a debt-collecting ghost. The next station is Resentment Station. But it didn't affect Sonam's thinking at all after reading those escape cases. I have a rough idea of where we should get off. The speaker emphasized, "This is Resentment Station," coinciding perfectly with the moment he was hesitating. The problem was suddenly in Sonam's ears. There came the sound of complaints from the people around him. "Hey, there's no signal and the mobile data isn't working either." Resentment. Resentment like when people get angry. He stared at them, weighing his options carefully. How can I convince these people to get off at the right station? Sonam locked his gaze on the tightly closed doors and quietly made up his mind. I need to get as many people to get off together as possible. And if you ask, do I have a mission to save many lives? Like will wings sprout from my back, while people offer moving tributes praying, "May Lord Kim Sonam protect us, long live the Field Expedition Team." His answer was of course no. But thinking this far, Sonam clutched his head, wanting to explain himself a little. Look, from a human perspective, I do feel that way, but did I tell you yet? The most critical issue here is that I can't get off this train alone. This train passes through all sorts of stops. A station that rains eyeballs. A station submerged in absolute darkness, and even one that is completely inverted. Just thinking about it makes Sonam's head spin with dizziness. The chance of me passing out midway and failing to escape is over 90%, but considering his innate fear of ghosts, Sonam takes a deep breath and bravely stands up. So he stares at everyone, silently resolving that somehow he has to convince them all so they can leave this place together. Even so, Only a fool would go around rambling about supernatural phenomena and darkness. Since Sunam is no fool, he has a different plan. First, he needs to build some trust. People are often influenced by the herd mentality. If he can persuade one or two people, the rest will likely follow along and get off the train. With that strategy in mind, Sunam glides smoothly down the hallway to hunt for his target. All right, let's see. Someone who looks like they need help or someone he can leverage as a connection. But after just a few steps, a piercing scream echoes in his ears. What on earth is this? This isn't just some scary story on YouTube. Sunam whips around toward the source of the voice, and his heart cheers wildly. He's found one. The person capturing all of Sunam's attention is none other than Dong-un. She is still glued to her phone when she hears footsteps approaching from afar. Sunam sits down comfortably beside her and starts the conversation as naturally as possible. Were you just talking about ghosts? Dong-un quickly puts her phone away out of politeness, then flustered, she explains, Sometimes I watch ghost stories on YouTube, and this situation reminds me of them. He seizes the opportunity to press further. Could you elaborate on what you mean by that? The current situation doesn't seem normal, so I think it's best if we share information, he says, and Dong-un, not holding back, spills it all. Well, actually, it's not really information. It's just that, literally speaking, it feels like we've walked right into a ghost story. The lecture hall suddenly turning into a subway car. She had only given one example, but Dong-un's voice was already trembling. That person just... The word death that she uttered at the end seemed to drain all the life right out of her. Dong-un realizes she's getting haunted by her own thoughts and quickly covers her mouth, apologizing. I'm sorry, suddenly bringing that up made me... But Sunam shows deep understanding toward her. It's okay, I feel the same way. This situation is so surreal that I can't even think straight. Saying that, he lets his shoulders slump silently, swallowing back his own exclamation. I feel like throwing up, too. After a few seconds of being stunned, Dong-un chuckles in response. No way. You look like the only person here keeping a cool head. Sunam suffers in silence. It's easy to say that, but she hasn't seen what I looked like when I passed out. How cool I looked. As their conversation begins to open up, someone suddenly cuts in. Sahan flashes a bright, slightly awkward smile, confirming something he had been wondering about. I was just wondering, you're the person who was sitting next to me, right? Sunam stares at him, but even he feels uncertain sitting next to him. But thanks to his sharp mind, Sunam's memory is still reliable enough to realize, oh, that's right. Back in the hall, Sahan was the one who kept looking at the box in his hands, and asked, where did you get that, even though Sunam himself couldn't explain this cursed gift? Well, realizing he looks confused, the man reaches out his hand and introduces himself clearly with his full name, I'm Park Sahan. Sunam flinches instinctively, repeating the name in his head, Park Sahan. He's a well-known employee, and with that fact comes a rush of data. A flood of specific top-secret information about the guy rushes into his mind, an employee of the Dream Corp who appeared in the cosmic records of ghost stories. His final position was manager with 106 recorded expeditions in total. 17 of those were recorded as special cases in the encyclopedia, but more importantly than any of that, his nickname is the Poisonous Snake. Sunam doesn't take his eyes off the harmless face in front of him. His mind still can't believe the reality. Is he really Park Sahan? He remains silent as a stone, as the person next to him stands up to return the greeting despite the chaotic situation. At least we should introduce ourselves properly, right? I'm Go Dong-un. Hearing that Sunam silently processes the information, it's a name he has never heard before. He has to focus on that detail because his ghost filter lens has started working. So she is either someone whose real name has never been revealed, someone who dealt with ghost stories smoothly and left the company early, or someone who died early. There are several prominent employees who only appear under nicknames or code names, but there are people with such intense personalities that you can spot them the moment you see Sunam clenching his fists against his knees to keep from dropping to the floor, all while silently cursing, "Damn it!" But in the end, he stiffly stood up and calmly held out his hand to introduce himself as Kim Sunam, while everyone else had already naturally split into small groups to chat. Dong-un leaned in to whisper to Sunam. It seemed they were trying to find a way to contact the people in the next car. Outwardly, he went along with it, saying, "Seems like it." But inside, he silently disagreed. That effort was bound to fail in this ghost story. Moving between train cars is forbidden, but all calculations had to be put on pause as the loudspeaker blared, "Next station, Ecstasy, Ecstasy Station." Everyone quickly processed the information. Then they turned to each other to gossip. Ecstasy. That name sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Maybe it's actually... Only Sunum privately denied it in his heart. No, people can't choose a station based on something as simple as that. First of all, in this ghost story, the theme of the stations changes every time they appear, so you can't just wait for a station name that sounds okay and use it to escape, but people can study previous precedents. For example, in the Welcome to the Abyss Transport Agency segment, there were 32 expedition logs recorded up to the 56th attempt. Station names were based on colors like red, yellow, blue, and so on, and the result was a successful escape. With 2 survivors, the station chosen was the blue station. There were also stations named after body parts like left-hand cornea, heart, and so on, but this time the data recorded a failed escape. The station chosen was the cochlea station. Station names were also set by year like 2008, 2012, 2016, and so on. In the end, there were no lucky cases recorded. It was a failed escape. The station chosen was the year 2026. Some stations were named after serial killers. The escape was successful with 12 survivors. The station chosen was 0. After skimming through a series of data, Sunum still hadn't determined which path he should choose. Even when looking through the examples up to the 56th case, there was absolutely no correlation between a station name sounding positive and the chances of survival. Right then, a voice full of excitement suddenly snapped him out of his wandering thoughts. The station looks pretty normal, doesn't it? Should we get off and see if we can find anyone? But as he lifted his eyelids, Sunum's whole body felt like it had been struck by lightning. Why did it look like a brand new station in some fancy modern urban district? He frantically denied it in his head. No way! I need to hold on to every last member of this group that I can. And my own sanity, too, if I have to witness what's about to happen to them. Thinking this, Sunum immediately jumped up and shouted, "Please wait!" He used his most serious tone to manipulate the already wavering morale of everyone. Are you sure? Hassan interrupted, questioned him with irritation. Sure about what? Sunum repeated the question seriously. I'm asking you, are you sure this place is safe? Fearing he wasn't persuasive enough on his own, he dragged in allies to add weight. I think most people here agree that this feels like a ghost story. But whether it's a ghost story or a horror movie, have you ever seen a happy ending? When people only act based on impulse and good vibes, without any logic or deduction, every word Sunum spoke made the atmosphere grow colder. Do you all really want to bet your lives so easily? Adan took a deep breath and used all his inner strength to fire back. Then do you have some brilliant deduction that we don't? You've been spouting nothing but pessimistic, gloomy stuff from the very beginning. Back off logical deduction, my foot. Forget it. You think this is a game show? It's not like anyone is giving us a hint. Sunum just waited for that moment to drop the bombshell. Actually, there is. We have already received a hint. He paused for a moment, pointed straight at the ceiling, then declared clearly, It's the PA announcement. This blunt reveal made everyone freeze. From the very beginning, the announcements on the train have always been telling us the truth. Sure enough, each announcement from the speaker was replayed in their minds. Thank you for riding with the Abyss Transport Agency. Our train does not stop in order to have a smooth journey to the final destination. Please pay close attention to this announcement. Sunum saw that everyone understood the problem now. He calmly continued, Everything has been clear from the start. It constantly reminds us to focus and follow the announcements. Right at that moment, the loudspeaker like a debt collector rang out again. Passengers with the final destination of Ecstasy Station, please disembark according to the announcement's instructions. Sunum scanned the room and calmly asked a question. Is there anyone here whose final destination is Ecstasy Station? Hassan weakly tried to justify it again, but ecstasy is a good thing, right? Living in a state of ecstatic happiness, isn't that the whole point of life? Sunum immediately cut him off. So, is Ecstasy Station really your final destination? She stammered a retort. But once she collected herself, Hassan suddenly found the courage to raise her voice. Aren't you sticking your nose in other people's business? Isn't that a bit much? If we miss our chance to escape because of you, will you take responsibility for it? Usually a man of hesitation this time, Sunum confidently promised, I'll take responsibility. As everyone remained hesitant, the scheduled announcement chimed. The platform screen doors were closing. Sunum stood amidst the crowd, silently thinking, Anyway, I've already planned for us all to get out of here together. That should be enough. Now, no one could really complain about him stopping them from getting off the train. But just as he was feeling most confident, a desperate scream jolted Sunum back to reality. Hey, wait! The warning hit him like a bolt from the blue, and he froze stiff. Everyone in the front car had already gotten off. The person next to Sunam asked softly, "Do you think they'll be okay?" But he was too busy panicking inside himself. "I really don't want to believe this is happening. I can't believe I have to witness what's about to unfold." The first person to step off the train was stopped by a thick yellowish liquid, but it seemed to have a mind of its own, creeping up their legs and onto their body. The trapped people screamed in horror, "Gold! Is that gold?" But just like at the previous station, every word was swallowed by that shimmering yellow goo. "They're melting, help me!" The final cry for help was washed away with its owner, into the deadly river of gold. The scene outside the carriage could only be described as a living hell. Those who had hoped to escape were now turning into golden mummies, floating across the platform. Those who stayed behind stared blankly as the speaker mechanically announced, "The train is departing from Ecstasy Station." Suddenly, someone regained their senses and grabbed his shirt. "Sonam," they demanded, "you said you'd take responsibility, didn't you? Are you really sure you can find us a safe place?" He tilted his head, looking at the other person's pale face, and replied firmly, "Yes, I am." But no one could read what was truly on Sonam's mind. Why did this turn into me being the one with all the answers? My legs are shaking so hard that's all I could manage to say. I'm about to die from the stress before anything else even happens. Suddenly, Sahan appeared with his familiar smile to shower him with praise. "You're truly extraordinary, Mr. Sonam." Sonam was stunned into silence by the formal tone. "Sir," he continued, ignoring Sonam's awkwardness, "people like you are rare these days, because you made such a bold promise. I truly hope it yields good results." Sonam listened until he was sick of it, then casually asked back, "Mr. Sahan, is there any station you want to get off at?" He was startled and mumbled evasively, "Huh? Why are you asking me that all of a sudden? No, I don't really know much about these kinds of things." But his naive act couldn't fool Sonam's skeptical and suspicious nature. If Sahan had truly worked here as an employee, that meant he had already passed this entrance exam. So he still didn't feel anything about it. For now, he would keep an eye on Sahan. The announcement echoed through the cabin again. "Dear passengers, we are entering a curved section of the track. Noise and vibrations may occur. Please remain seated to avoid accidents." Not knowing who started it, someone spoke up to urge the others. But everyone obediently followed suit. "Everyone, let's sit down." However, the chaos unfolding before them caused a commotion. "Oh no, look at the front car. It looks like there's a fight. What should we do?" The announcement said we have to sit down. Should we say something? Finally, someone couldn't just watch anymore and stood up to be the mediator. "Excuse me, can everyone hear us? Please sit down." Yet in his heart, Sonam just calmly whispered, "It's already too late." Just as expected, the next announcement arrives right on time. We're entering a curved stretch of track, and the train snakes through it, twisting into a bizarre sharp angle as the passengers in the carriage fail to listen. Once they've been ground into a bloody pulp, the announcement chimes in again, nonchalant. "It is now safe to stand up. Thank you for your cooperation." Those with weak stomachs witnessing the carnage immediately clutched their heads, spiraling into madness. It really happened exactly as the announcement said. I can't take this anymore. Just let me off this thing. What is this? What the hell is actually going on here? Damn it. Ignoring everyone else spiraling out of control, Sunwoo uses this time to reinforce his own theory. This proves it beyond a doubt. These announcements are our lifelines. They're definitely key to our survival, but this is just too horrifying. Stay focused. Just focus on convincing them. But that announcement voice is like a death curse clinging to us and refusing to let go. "Attention passengers, this is an announcement from the Abyss Transit Authority." Those poor souls, already pushed to the brink of despair, could only blankly ask, again. But this time it's not about the next station. It's a lost and found announcement. We have received a report of a lost item. If you are currently in possession of this lost item, sure. Please disembark at the next station and turn it into the station staff. Sunwoo's heart skips a beat. The announcement feels like it's targeting him directly, a case of escape via the mixed record. As long as you have the specified lost item, you can leave safely. The announcement continues to pierce through everyone's eardrums. The lost item is a male in his 20s. Adult male, blood type A. His right eyeball. Inside Sunwoo's carriage, the distorted voice of the announcement rings out each beat, making the air grow colder. The lost item is the left eye of a male in his 20s with blood type A. If you have found the lost item, please disembark at the next station and hand it over to the station staff. The moment that information airs, he remembers a crucial detail from an extra file he once read, a universal escape ticket. His memory quickly flips to the contents he once pored over, the 6th Dark Exploration Ghost Stories. Welcome to the Abyss Transit Authority. 4. Extra File Escape. It was a document recording anomalous survival cases where people successfully escaped, by using methods other than just getting off at the right station. Some patterns were observed repeatedly in the frequently occurring records, especially at temporary stops meant to adjust the spacing between trains. Regarding the lost item announcement, if you disembark with the announced lost item, says you can escape the station. However, only one person can escape at a time. Inside the carriage, it's still filled with chaotic chatter about the announcement that just played. What did they just say? A male in his 20s. The left eye of a male with blood type A. The repetition of every word in the tense atmosphere makes the panic spiral even further. Type A. They're talking about blood type, right? Amidst the chaos, Sunwoo stays silent, leaning back in his seat, silently calculating. Should I just ignore it and let it pass? After all, everyone can survive if we just get off at the right station. If only one person escapes early for no apparent reason, it could make the atmosphere strange and trigger infighting. Just then, Ha-chun tentatively raises his hand. How about we find out who the target is first? That suggestion is quickly met with agreement. Yeah, that's right. We don't know what might happen. So everyone slowly gathers into a circle. Questions begin to ring out one after another into the empty air. Excuse me, how old are you? I'm over 30. You look younger than your age? I'm blood type B, so it's not me. When it's his turn, Jung-soo turns to his side and whispers, What about you, Kim Sun-woo? He answers immediately without hesitation, I'm type AB. That response had been prepared well in advance, but that's a lie. In reality, he's type A, but either way, this will pass soon enough. So there's no need to reveal that he's the target. At that very moment, an arm slowly rises, accompanied by a hesitant voice. Actually, it took Ha-chun a long time to gather the courage. To continue his expression grave, I match all those criteria. As he finishes, he immediately looks around at everyone with a rigid expression. The announcement rings out again urgently. The next station is Rage. Rage. Sahan suddenly wears a twisted smile. As the mechanical sound drones on and the doors open while Ha-chun is still trying to figure out how to react, a figure silently looms over him, then slowly speaks, probing to confirm once more, You said you were type A, right? He jolts, snapping his head over, Yes, that's right. The moment he nods in confirmation is the moment Sahan breaks into a grin that stretches to his ears along with a static crackle. The next station is Rage. Rage Station. The platform screen doors are opening. He says this while slowly swinging the hand holding his phone behind him. What a shame. As he finishes, a sharp edge strikes Ha-chun right in the left eye. A dry, sickening sound of impact rings out in the silent carriage, leaving everyone frozen in place. But Sahan doesn't stop there. He follows up with a brutal kick to Ha-chun's body. The force sends him flying from his seat and he collapses onto the floor of the train in agony. A blood-curdling scream tore through the suffocating atmosphere. He just stabbed his own eye. Chaos erupted and several people rushed over to Ha-chun, along with questions aimed at Sahan, Are you okay? What the hell are you doing? Contrary to the intense reactions around him, Sahan acted as if it were obvious. They said we could escape if we sacrificed one eye. So why are you all just standing there like idiots? That cold reply left the crowd stunned. No one expected him to interpret the announcement in such a cruel way. They said we could get off the train if we turned in a lost item. Just then, a mechanical voice rang out from the intercom. If you have found a lost item, please disembark at the station and hand it over to the station staff. Ignoring the shocked gazes directed at him, Sahan indifferently turned and walked away. But thinking about it, I guess I shouldn't expect much from people who want others to take responsibility for their own survival. That shamelessness made Dong-un grind his teeth. Grind. That guy. Meanwhile, Seonam secretly marveled, oh. He ran a hand over his chin, a look of intrigue appearing on his face. Truly worthy of being called the Viper. Watching the smile on Sahan's face, he couldn't help but recall how he looked when he first appeared. I thought it was just because he was new to the workforce and hadn't been tainted by society yet, but the Sahan described in the dark exploration logs definitely gives off that vibe. Seonum's eyes followed Sahan as he stepped off the train and turned back to wave at everyone, instead of sacrificing his own left eye, which would have matched the description. He had ruined someone else's eye instead, just in case only one item was accepted. Right at that moment, the announcement chimed again. As the platform screen doors closed, Seonum confirmed he had understood the speaker's words correctly, even though there was a hint in the announcement that was a truly bold decision. The problem is he didn't need to go that far. While everyone's attention was still focused on Sahan, he quietly lowered his body, his hand slowly sliding into the luggage compartment under the seat, carefully searching. I definitely saw something around here earlier. Reaching deeper inside Seon secretly rationalized, from the very beginning, a lost item wasn't something that belonged to me. As his fingertips touched an object hidden in the dark corner, he immediately pulled it out without hesitation. It was something someone else had lost. Lying in the palm of his hand was an object that looked quite like a contact lens case. On the outside, there was a small paper label titled, Right Eye Blood Type of Female 27 Years Old. Actually, this lost item announcement is a treasure hunt where you have to find a potential item inside the train car that matches the description exactly and carry it with you. Though there are cases where people accidentally escape by sacrificing parts of their own bodies. Before the train departed, Seonum tapped lightly on the glass to get Sahan's attention. I don't need to criticize him for finding his own way to escape, but this definitely crossed the line. After that, he slowly raised the small container in his hand close to the glass window so the guy could see it. His fingers intentionally covered the label on the outside, making the only thing visible to him, the eyeball resting inside. Through the partition, his expression changed instantly when he realized what it was. That mutter of his was filled with shock and disbelief. An eyeball! The announcement echoed across the platform again. Passengers who have disembarked, please wait a moment. Station staff will assist you. The announcement finished. Mechanical devices that hadn't been there before suddenly appeared around Sahan. They all pointed toward Sahan's eye as the train's voice chimed in, We sincerely thank you for your cooperation. It all happened in a fleeting moment. He had been attacked. The lost item has been safely handed over to the station staff. The remaining passengers on the train were immediately in an uproar. When they heard the painful sound echoing from the platform, did everyone hear that scream just now? But because it was his own doing, no one felt sorry for Sahan. While everyone was still discussing it, Dong-un was still hunched over checking Ha-chun's condition. It's almost certain his cornea has been damaged. I'm so worried. Realizing the other person could make a fairly accurate assessment, Seon became a bit curious. Did you work in the medical field before? Seeming afraid of a misunderstanding, she quickly explained, Oh no, I only studied it in university. I ended up changing my major halfway through anyway. So I'm just an amateur, I haven't even taken the national exam yet. But this made him admire her. Just getting into medical school alone is amazing in my book. The atmosphere on this train hadn't fully settled after the recent incident when the speaker suddenly announced, The next station is Gamheon Station. Seon immediately realized everyone was focusing their attention on him. Are they watching to see if I'm going to tell them to get off here? Given the current situation, I guess they've decided to leave the choice of station up to me. Right then, Dong-un spoke up with a complex expression. Sorry, you're feeling a bit pressured, aren't you? These words left him a bit confused. She didn't seem to want to give him a chance to respond, continuing on in a single breath as everyone kept trying to lean on him. Dong-un, however, thought differently. I'm actually grateful that they're leaning on me. When he fell silent, she continued to express what had been bottled up inside. I know everyone is doing this. It's just because they're scared and anxious. I'm sorry. But for you, it's completely different. You're the one who's actually scared and anxious. That's why you're trying to provoke them, isn't it? After a few seconds of silence to steady his emotions, Dong-un spoke slowly. I've tried thinking about that myself. That statement immediately sparked Sunum's curiosity. And what have you come up with? Seemingly still considering her words, she took quite a while to respond about the final destination he had mentioned earlier. After a month of hesitation, Dong-un continued in a cautious tone. If we're talking about the final destination of a human being, is it in the end of life itself? The question caught Sunum off guard, as the end of life is death. While speaking, she unconsciously squeezed her interlocked hands tightly. So I wonder, should we get off the train when a term like that appears? But if we do, it feels like I'm telling everyone to walk toward their own end, so I couldn't bring myself to say it. After listening to all the thoughts Dong-un shared, Sonam objectively evaluated them. I think that's a very persuasive point. The unexpected praise made him slightly flustered, really. But the agreement only lasted a moment. However, from the very beginning at this point he fell silent again, a faint smile appearing at the corners of his mouth. Then he slowly closed his eyes, letting his thoughts complete themselves in his mind before speaking. What exactly is a destination? This left Dong-un bewildered. The familiar announcement echoed throughout. The next station is Peace Station. Peace Station. The doors will open on the right. As the train car grew quiet, Sonam continued. If you look it up in a dictionary, a destination means something you want to achieve, or the direction you are heading. He then organized the deductions in his head, since the provided instructions weren't difficult and following them meant survival. The theme of this train was very intuitive. Take your seat. Find the lost item. As long as you follow the instructions, your safety is guaranteed, but it comes with a regrettable departure. Even those who get off at the wrong station pay the price in a very literal way, so what does a destination mean? Looking at the rules, this train always operates by the standard for choosing a station is actually easy. The destination this train is talking about is likely a milestone that you in your current state have not yet reached. In other words, it is something you do not have. All the previous events immediately connected at the green station. Those who didn't carry green items escaped at the station named after the serial killer. Most people managed to escape, because none of them were the serial killer. Every example provided made the argument more solid. Thinking in this direction would help us choose our stations. It makes things simpler because the theme of the stations this time is emotions, an emotion that I am currently missing. After rolling along for a while, the announcement sounded, making everyone inside tremble with fear. This station is Peace Station, Peace Station. Contrary to the anxiety enveloping everything, Sonam smiled and said confidently without hesitation, this is the station. Turning to look at Dong-un's bewildered face, he affirmed, we are getting off here. A difficult question had been simmering in Sonam's mind day after all. What is an emotion that a person doesn't have? Everyone experiences emotions in life. He recalled the colorful expressions and the vivid faces of his companions. Even though there are individual differences, since almost everyone goes through joys and sorrows, it's not easy to find an emotion that none of us possess. But if there were an exception... Sonam snapped out of his wandering thoughts to return to reality. His vacant gaze, combined with his naturally expressionless face, created a mysterious, unpredictable aura. Right in front of the group, the train's electronic sign flickered, emitting cold rays of light. The next station is Peaceful Station. The dictionary definition of peaceful: a state of mind free from anxiety or unease. Peaceful, a noun, a state of a stable country, tranquil and free of worry. Synonyms: tranquility, enjoying peace. They pray for the peace of the country. 2. Free from anxiety or unease in the mind. He is always calm and carefree. He has a mountain of work to do. But he is still sleeping soundly. How can any human being completely escape anxiety and unease, especially in a situation like this? The atmosphere outside the train was thick and blanketed with the stench of blood that rushed up to the nose. Sonam stepped toward Ha-chun, who was collapsed on the cold metal floor. He bent down and extended a hand toward the other, offering it with a friendly attitude. Sonam proactively pulled Ha-chun's arm over his shoulder, using his strength to help him step by step toward the train door. Let me help you. This unexpected act of kindness made Ha-chun so embarrassed that he stuttered, unable to speak. Thank you. In reality, hidden behind Sonam's thoughtfulness was a deeply rational calculation. Once I've taken the lead, everyone follows. There's no turning back now. What if we all escape together like this? However, his calculations were cut short the moment the automatic doors slid open. Blood splattered everywhere, covering the walls and floor. It created a living hell. Everyone's faces went pale instantly. Even Sonam was frozen in his tracks as a deadly silence fell over the space. Someone broke the suffocating atmosphere with a trembling voice. A pool of blood, but is this really the right answer? Deep down, Sonam was screaming, cursing this absurd reality. Out of all the places to choose, why did it have to be this one? The confidence and decisiveness he had just minutes ago vanished into thin air, replaced by a thick metallic stench. How could he convince them to get off the train? Is it okay to do it here? Honestly, even I don't want to step out. Someone please convince me otherwise. Sonam's fingers gripped his own wrist until his knuckles turned white. I'm sorry, everyone, but... Before the others could hear what he meant, Dong-un suddenly raised her arm high. I think we should get off here. She looked past Sonam's shoulders, which were shaking slightly with tension. She looked right through his fear. He was the only one among us who had certainty, and he remained calm throughout this time while everyone else was terrified and drowning in self-doubt. Hearing those words, he couldn't help but be shocked. Was I really that calm? She was offering an objective assessment based on everything she had witnessed from the start of this death train until now. Some had made a huge fuss, just to save their own skins, but you, Kim Sanam, you didn't. Dongun's gaze was firmer than ever. She was decisively betting her life on him. Anyway, if we have to follow someone's lead, I'd rather follow a good person. While the others were still standing there blankly, she took a decisive step across the boundary. Safely, she didn't hesitate or stop for even a second to probe. She just strode straight into the blood-soaked space outside, and the surroundings remained still. There were no traps or hidden dangers triggered. Dong-un immediately shouted to alert those still safe inside the train. This is the right answer, everyone. Get off here. Everyone over here. Kim Sonam stared with his mouth agape at Dong-un's retreating back. Just then, a hesitant, weak voice sounded right next to him. Kim Sonam. Hachun tried to force a smile he thought looked elegant. I believe in you too, Sonam. Let's go, don't hesitate because of me. A complicated feeling rose within him. Sonam pretended as if nothing was wrong. All right then. In reality, there was a ridiculous truth no one knew. Sonam himself was the one most terrified and afraid to step off. He secretly swallowed a lump in his throat, silently cheering himself on. Okay, let's do this. Even though his heart was overflowing with fear, he was determined not to show even the slightest crack in his emotionless expression. If we all get off here, it will be safe. Now, only the sound of their own footsteps echoed. He tried to keep his mind sharp in the infuriatingly quiet space, just focusing on the sensation of moving forward. After walking for a long time, a large glass wall appeared before them, covered in layers of yellow talismans. High above, a sign hung with the words, Exit. The surface was stained a brownish black with blood that had dried long ago. The surrounding atmosphere lost its light once again, gradually sinking into darkness. Beneath the faint flickering light, they could only barely make out steep stone stairs leading upward. Suddenly, a blinding light burst forth, accompanied by a mockingly cheerful sound echoing through the space. Congratulations to the new employees! Sonam was startled awake by that shrill noise. He snapped his eyes open. The first thing he did once he regained consciousness was to hurriedly observe the situation around him. He began to silently count the number of people who had entered with him. 3. No, wait. 1. 2. His eyes quickly scanned each familiar face in the crowd. 3, 4, 5. 4. The count was complete, and the tension in his face began to visibly ease. His focus touched the final figures of the team 5, 6, 7. Only then did Sonam's constricted chest finally loosen. We survived. 8 passengers from the train stepped out under the brilliant stage lights. Kim Tae clutched his microphone tightly and spoke loudly to stir up the silent atmosphere. Let's see. Oh my God, there are 22 people who passed the probationary period this time. That is truly an incredible record. Unless there was a mistake in adjusting the difficulty, you all are truly an elite class. I wonder what the HR department will think, huh? Ignoring his rambling and pathetic jokes. The crowd below maintained a deathly silence. Sun also quietly blended into the crowd to secretly assess the situation. No one reacted at all. Even though no one bothered to answer or engage, Kim Tae remained incredibly enthusiastic. So should we pick the most outstanding person among you? In the middle of the dark room, a single spotlight from the ceiling suddenly beamed straight down onto his position. Congratulations to you, Kim Sonam. Oh, standing up right away. With your ability to read the room like that, you'd be a great fit for our department. It was a shame. Sonam kept his usual calm, but inside a chilling sensation rose up. So he had been watching everyone. Was this actually happening? Kim Tae handed him a paper bag and chuckled mysteriously. A gift from the company. It's not just for the top scorers. Everyone gets a share. Sonam took the gift with both hands, looking down at the bag as his lips twitched with exhaustion. Honestly, he didn't feel happy at all. Just as Sonam reached for the gift, Kim Tae suddenly gripped the handle of the bag tightly, refusing to let go. He leaned in, closing the distance, and whispered in a low, heavy tone that only the two of them could hear, "Take a good look inside." This strange behavior and the cryptic instruction left him stunned. What? Before he could even react, the man flashed a beaming smile, pretending as if nothing suspicious had happened between them. All right, next up is Yu Bak Sahon. Next. One by one, looking dazed and exhausted, they walked up to the podium to receive bags that looked identical to Sunam's. The reaction of each person as they held the gift was completely different. Some couldn't hide their grief. Others stood frozen like soulless husks. After returning to his seat, Sunam quietly pieced everything together. He analyzed the information he'd gathered over the past while. Those who had been stuck in the ghost story for a long time, it seems the timeline of each train ride is different. He glanced at the person next to him, a rare flicker of pity rising in his heart for them. Baksahon, surely after this is all over. He'll have to go to a hospital himself. On the podium, Kim Tae wore a radiant smile and clapped his hands, wrapping up the segment. So has everyone received their gifts? With this, all of you. He intentionally drew out his words before loudly and enthusiastically announcing the official decision. You have been hired into the field investigation team of the corporation. Data Jim. A large line of text suddenly appeared in midair like a curtain call, ending the chapter with the contribution and gratitude of our entire production team. We sincerely thank everyone for loving this webtoon. It seemed as though everything here could end peacefully, and they had finally been freed. But Kim Tae's grotesque voice suddenly cut in. Oh, wait, after all, not everyone who passed the challenge put in the same amount of effort, did they? What I mean is, there's always someone who just knows how to leech off others. His mouth stretched wide, dragging up to his ears, accompanied by an expression of extreme gloating. Fairness must be put first. All the leeches will be rounded up immediately. In that instant, strange ripples appeared between the rows of seats in the auditorium. Several people who were still sitting perfectly still vanished into thin air in the blink of an eye, leaving no trace behind, as if they had never existed. Sunam shuddered in horror. He felt a distinct chilling sensation, crawling like filth over his skin. Witnessing this lightning-fast purge, Kim Tae raised his voice again, addressing the 13 remaining new employees. Welcome, everyone. Sunam was shaken, covering his mouth with both hands, trying to suppress the feeling of nausea and disgust rising in his throat. The man completely ignored the terror and panic of the crowd below and continued to ramble, endlessly in a tone full of pride. You have all earned the position of official employee with excellent performance. On the vacant benches only, a few empty sets of clothes remained covered in some kind of viscous, slimy substance of unknown origin. The breaking point for one person in the group had completely collapsed. He raised a trembling hand, his voice repeating over and over, I want to resign. I want to resign. I want to resign. Kim Tae raised an eyebrow, feigning ignorance and confusion at his sudden decision. You want to resign from such a good job? Why don't you hear about our benefits package before making that decision? Sunam feared this was just another psychological trap the company had set to eliminate those who resisted. If I hear about the benefits, will my resignation still be processed safely? The man affirmed with an incredibly generous attitude. Exactly. You can resign without suffering any penalties whatsoever. But right after that promise, the familiar twisted smile appeared on his face again. Of course you might change your mind after hearing about the benefits. Sonam's face showed extreme tension. He understood that the real trap was just beginning. The relay baton had been passed, and now Kim Tae raised his voice, tearing through the atmosphere. Let me introduce the top-tier benefits of our company. Do you understand yet? The dirty trick this organization frequently uses to manipulate and lure the human psyche. The carrot had arrived. On the large screen, detailed images of the treasure appeared. The wish ticket. At that moment, Kim Tae joyfully introduced, Our company is a famous and extremely successful pharmaceutical corporation. We have even developed therapies for hair loss, so you can imagine just how advanced our technology is. But we have one flagship product that surpasses everything else, the wish ticket, a drug that can bring any wish to life. It is called the wish ticket. Just looking at the slide might be a bit confusing, so let me demonstrate it for you all. As luck would have it, today is the day I finally receive it, my wish ticket. No sooner had he finished speaking than he quickly opened the wish ticket vial and Kim Tae downed it immediately, leaving everyone stunned. They started whispering to each other, A wish ticket, seriously? Is that for real? It's gotta be a fake. Exactly, and we didn't even know what he wanted to wish for in the first place. Suddenly, Kim Tae's hair began to turn silky smooth again, and he let out a refreshed shout. Looking as youthful as if he had been rejuvenated, he happily announced, See? This is the power of the wish ticket. One wish ticket can even turn back time. Kim Tae continued. You two are on the crime scene investigation team, and you always get excellent performance ratings. That means your team can earn wish tickets. Twice as fast as anyone else. But in reality, the top 10 people who get wish tickets the fastest are all from the crime scene investigation team. In other words, the members of the crime scene investigation team are in the best position to get them. It's just a clever play on words. The number of people who died probably outweighs the number of people who actually received one. But even so, Sunum pondered silently. This isn't a scam. Everyone saw it with their own eyes. People really can get a wish ticket. This silence was the calm before the storm. Suddenly, a hand shot up from the audience. Dong-wook spoke up tentatively. Can a wish ticket bring someone back from the dead? He looked straight at Kim Tae with anxious eyes. Seeing this, Kim Tae smiled and answered clearly. Ah, we have a standard answer for questions like that. That is impossible. I bet you were expecting me to say that, right? A single wish ticket can grant any wish the owner desires, so make up your minds right now, okay? The door in the auditorium suddenly swung open. Kim Tae boldly declared, anyone who wants to refuse this offer is free to leave. But for those who want to continue, please put on the mask. Oh, that's inside your shopping bags. Sunum quietly glanced at the bag sitting in front of his feet. He muttered in surprise, a mask, I never thought I'd actually end up receiving something like this. Just like that, he slowly pulled the mask out of the bag. As soon as he lifted it, a business card fell out along with it. Sunum examined the card. He thought to himself, a business card. So that's why the host told us to observe closely from the beginning. I'll check this out later. And here is the mask. In the Daydream Corporation Horror Universe Documentation Department, staff assigned to the field investigation team must wear these masks. These are the masks worn during field operations. They are issued after the new employee orientation. Please follow the staff. Each recruitment year follows a different mask theme. For instance, the staff wearing ant masks and mantis masks are likely from the same intake. These are symbols of the investigation team. Field investigation belongs to the Daydream Corporation. Sun feeling anxious, thinks to himself, honestly, I kind of want to quit and run away. This is a world where dark anomalies are always lurking. In daily life, a coward like me would hardly survive in this world. If quitting means becoming cannon fodder in a horror story, then I have to find a way to escape this world. And then one by one, they all decide to put on their masks from Sahan to Jong-un, even after everything that has happened. No one left. When a new employee puts on their mask, its shape changes. It becomes personalized, transforming into a unique form. Personalized just for the wearer. Sunum thinks to himself, wondering what his will looked like. Then a bright light flashed instantly. 2 horns sprouted from the sides of Sunum's mask. He thought awkwardly, antlers. What kind of shape is this? Shape is... A deer, does everyone get one? He looked at Jong-un's mask and thought, a mountain goat. Right after that, a voice suddenly echoed, announcing once more, congratulations on joining our company. Employment confirmed. So the probationary period has officially ended. Employment confirmed. In a split second, a notebook appeared with the words, Horror Universe Physical Item Box, New Goods Unlocked. Sunum calculated silently. New goods unlocked? It's so prominent. I'll check it later. Probably once I get home. Home, huh? Suddenly, Sunum realized something. Wait a minute. Do I even have a home in this world? A moment later, Jong-un excitedly walked over to chat. Good morning, Sunum. Sunum replied calmly. Good morning. She asked him curiously, so you received housing support too? Sunum nodded. Yeah, that's right. He remembered a moment ago when he searched for his address. His phone quickly displayed, address information invalid. Sunum stared blankly, thinking, recent records. especially from my college years. Even my family's contact information has disappeared. While he was worried about how to resolve this, Sahan secretly glanced at him. Sun watched Kim Tae introduce the management and staff. He couldn't help but think, employee benefits. So I really have no choice but to use them, huh? And that is how I moved into the company housing. The presenter's pitch, the apartment is right next to the station. I told you so. This is a fantastic company. Sunam listened and silently judged who in their right mind would want to move in there. After making us go through a survival game, returning to the present, Jong-un is still chattering, do you know, it seems 7 out of our 13 colleagues received housing support. Hearing that, Sunam was stunned, thinking, the majority got it. Jong-un continued, even though it's a bit creepy, it's really hard to turn down free housing near the train station. Sunam had to agree with her, that's true. Money is the scariest thing in this world. The company housing is actually quite decent. It's a clean, newly renovated building near the station. I'm sure their intention is to keep us close enough to exploit our labor to death whenever they want. But there is only one problem. The moment Sunam walked in, he saw Sahan sitting at the dining table scrolling through his phone. Hearing the door open, Sahan reflexively looked toward Sunam. Just like that, both stared at each other with mutual disgust. My roommate in the company dormitory is none other than Sahan. In the side story, when Dongwook asked, can it really resurrect the dead? Kim Tae quickly replied, of course. A wish ticket can do anything. As soon as they heard that, the same thought popped into both Sunam and Jong-un's heads. It can even increase the number of wishes. In a heartbeat, the atmosphere between Sunam and Sahan gradually turned into an awkward silence as neither spoke a word. Sunam looked at Sahan's bandaged eyes and thought, Sahan, it seems the company has treated your eyes. We don't need to interfere in each other's business just because we're roommates. I'll head to my room first. Just as he intended to ignore him and walk straight to his room, Sahan suddenly spoke up to stop him. Hey! However, Sunam didn't care and kept walking. Sahan was a bit angry. He growled and raised his voice. Hey! Yet he still didn't react to his words. Sehon started complaining, this guy is insane. Is watching someone else's eyes get gouged out really that interesting? Sunam remained silent, offering no response. He slowly turned and headed toward Sehon. In a flash, he placed his hand on Sahan's shoulder and with a twisted smile replied in a low voice, yeah, that's right. Before Sehon could even scream, what? Sunam rattled off a long string of words. Is this what people call a doppelganger? Thanks to you, I've had such a wonderful time. I hope we'll have the chance to work together like this again so I can see such scenes one more time. It's been so long since I've seen entertainment. This good. I'm really looking forward to hearing more good news from you. Make my office life a bit more interesting, won't you? With that, Sunam turned and walked away. He thought coldly to himself, all right, let's keep this up. Otherwise, I'll end up looking like some kind of psychopathic freak. Based on my method for identifying unreasonable people honed through years of dealing with clients, there is a term for people like that guy, Sahan. They're known as the God complex type. People with a God complex rewrite their own memories to fit their own narrative. Shameless, conscienceless bullying the weak while bowing to the strong. You can't reason with them, but they are incredibly quick-witted when it benefits them. They're the type who craft their own version of reality and then stubbornly insist it's the truth. Dealing with people like that, it's best to act aggressively dominant. Saying I wanted to work with him was clearly a lie. It was both a feint and a defensive measure. Anyway, the chances of new employees being assigned to the same team are extremely low. I just need to lie convincingly enough to avoid getting stabbed in the back while I sleep. Shortly after, Sunam entered his room. The company dormitory was free, fully furnished, clean, and looked brand new with a private bathroom and deep cleaning services. 100,000 won on the desk every week as a welcome gift, high-end snacks, and even stationery. The CEO is seriously insane. The employee benefits are crazy. They must be trying to reduce the turnover rate since we've all been vetted as competent enough for the job. Oh, there's even a diary here. He opened the diary to take a look, wondering suspiciously. But why is last year written on this? Sunam smiled, closed the book, and thought pensively. Senior, I really appreciate these hard-earned pieces of advice, but I'm beyond saving now. All right, now that I'm all alone, should I check it? No sooner said than done. Sunam summoned the sticky note from earlier that had appeared on the podium and tapped it to check. Instantly, the note flipped through its pages continuously, and finally a smiley face sticker fell out. Sonam muttered, a smiley sticker classified by the Daydream Corporation. Item read/edit tool, a companion for sales staff. When applied to a sentient life form, it makes them feel a sense of friendliness. User requirements: official employee of Daydream Corporation or higher. Sonam stared at the cheap-looking sticker. This is actually an affinity manipulation item, or as it's better known, a bribery item. That's why it was completely removed for being too overpowered after the writers started organizing Roman Colosseum-style battles against each other using its effects. In the end, they decided the item itself had to be deleted. Some argued that obtaining this item seemed a bit too easy. Why not reduce its effectiveness or raise the required level to use it? Well, I think shortening it is worth it because the world building, before getting to the core of the story, has become too long-winded. I believe we should avoid turning stories into short stories just to ensure narrative consistency and overall quality. Turning them into short stories, huh? That's not the problem. The problem is that the stories become boring. Is sticking a smiley sticker on a popular character and dragging them back considered fun? This is probably the only one left in the world. The smiley sticker can only be used by official employees or higher. Requirements: official employee of the Daydream Corporation or higher. I must have unlocked it when I became an official employee. So will I get new items every time my rank or department changes? It seems useful for survival, I guess. But Sonam thought gloomily. They shouldn't have dragged me into this world in the first place. Even this notebook feels like it came out of a ghost story. That night, as Sonam pulled the blanket up preparing to go to sleep, he thought, work starts next week. So many things have happened in just one day. But in his sleep, he only dreamed of nightmares called daydream, making it impossible for him to get any rest. The next morning at the company dormitory, Dong-un asked with concern, Kim Sonam, are you okay? Did you not sleep well? Sonam replied listlessly, just a little, I'm fine. Hearing this, Dong-un exclaimed, oh my, while Sonam only thought, I spent the whole weekend trapped in those nightmares. Dong-un encouraged him, I'm getting off on the 10th floor, Kim Sonam. Let's do our best. Sonam nodded in response, yeah, let's do it. The field survey team works from the 10th floor to the 15th floor, and the floor I'm about to get off on is, for some reason, even this number feels like a bad omen. Just as he reached the hallway, Sonam, even this number feels like an omen. It feels like a bad omen just arrived in the hallway. So don't bother doubting if this is the team you've been assigned to. Right about now, in the office, two people were chatting, and the moment they spotted Sonam, one of them spoke up. You've arrived, so you finally made it, huh? Sonam politely bowed his head to introduce himself. Hello, everyone. I've been assigned to the D team starting today. The other person replied with delight. I've already heard everything about you. Welcome aboard. The person who just spoke was the D team leader. Park Min-song then gently added, welcome to the D team, our newest 15th batch recruit. Beside him was the deputy team leader, Un-ha-chai. Sonam thought to himself, thank goodness they don't seem like the type to bully newcomers. When suddenly Ha-che spoke up to warn him. Just so you know, this nickname for the D team is the Rookie Graveyard. Then with a cold expression, she shouted, just kidding! Don't even think about quitting, okay? To be continued in the next episode. What a twist. Weekly cleaning, 100,000, one a month. Floors, bathrooms, changing bed sheets, recycling, organizing, and storage. The Dream Corporation dormitory offers deep cleaning services weekly for 100,000, one a month. Finally, despite his unenthusiastic look, Sonam looked at the young man in front of him who was still eagerly welcoming him. Anyway, welcome everyone to the Abyss Transportation Agency and congratulations on surviving the challenge. Surviving death itself. Facing that kind of enthusiasm, his face didn't show a hint of excitement. Instead, it showed disappointment. Could they really just say that out loud so openly? The young man in front of him continued the conversation with gusto. Shall we introduce ourselves first? Beside him, Min-song gestured with his hand toward the person next to him. This is our assistant director, Un-ha-chai. She nodded with a smile. Welcome to the D team. Min-song then pointed to himself and introduced himself formally. And I am senior staff Park Min-song. He smiled and added in an eager tone, as for me, it's a pleasure to meet the assistant director and the senior staff. My name is Kim Sun-um. You don't need to be so formal if you can just hold out for about a year here. You'll be promoted to senior staff in no time. Ha-che crossed her arms and kept a completely indifferent expression. Of course, that's assuming you don't die before then. Min-song was taken aback, mouth agape. Hey now. Sunny, the senior, continued using her cold experience to say, what's the matter? Quitting isn't exactly a bad option either. There are plenty of other jobs out there. Hearing this, Sunam couldn't help but sigh inwardly, thinking to himself, no matter what job I choose, I'll probably just end up getting dragged into some urban legend anyway. Minsong nodded instinctively, seeming to agree. Even so, this new recruit actually graduated top of his class in the entrance exam. Hache nodded, continuing her explanation. Is that so? Now I'm getting curious? Come on, show us what you've got. Faced with such eagerness and hospitality, his expression remained ice-cold. I just worked hard, that's all. Seeing Sunam's reserved nature, they both chimed in. Oh, come on, if that was all it took. Then everyone would have gotten into the National University. After a moment of small talk, Minsong smiled brightly and suggested, the team leader is currently out in the field. Just sit down and make yourself at home. Sunam stood up and bowed politely. Yes, thank you. As the heavy, thick atmosphere began to settle in, a voice suddenly blared out, Hello? This is your live traffic forecast. Sunam was quite surprised by this sudden voice. Did the radio just turn itself on? The radio suddenly announced a few important notable messages worth listening to. We bring you real-time updates on weather and traffic. The clear, sunny skies from this morning will continue to hold. And just like today's weather, traffic conditions on the roads are very peaceful. On a rainy night, right in the middle of the busy, crowded streets, two men stopped to grab each other's collars, fighting in the heavy rain. What kind of driving is that, huh? You didn't even bother to use your turn signal. However, starting this afternoon, Sunam heard the news report. He shot a lazy glance at it, a weather report completely detached from reality. He stared at it intently and concluded, this radio is an urban legend. Urban. Seeing him clearly articulate every word, Minsong reached over and twisted the dial a few times. You figured it out, huh? His eyes couldn't hide his interest and slight surprise. This rookie is like a ghost, isn't he, Sharp, aren't you? It's basically like a daily fortune-telling game. It's a relatively safe urban legend. Minsong looked at the radio and recounted the traffic information. Hello, an urban legend has surfaced here. Its classification code at the Daydream Corporation is TLS-63, a strange radio. It predicts your daily fate based on traffic patterns. Hearing this, Sunam falls silent, his gaze dropping, filled with distress. Seeing his clearly troubled expression, Minsong immediately concludes, I bet you're thinking, what the hell is an urban legend with a twilight rank? You're a bit of a bookworm, aren't you? He shakes his head to deny it immediately. No, I don't think that at all. Hearing his answer, Minsong slowly pulls out a simple manual and hands it to him. That's exactly why we've prepared this. For new employees like you. Seeing Sunam's hesitation, Minsong keeps urging him, just take a look first. The intro shows a dark, mysterious scene. The first text appears warning, this video is produced for the training of Daydream Corporation employees. New employee orientation video, the Orange Cat. The representative for Hache starts smiling and greeting the new employees who are full of dreams and passion. Minsong, standing nearby, calmly supports the process. Welcome to the field survey team of Daydream Corporation. Everyone watching below is extremely excited and curious about what kind of company Daydream Corporation is. Hearing that, Hache and Minsong chime in together. Oh, that's easy. We produce every kind of medicine you could possibly need, literally magical pharmaceuticals. Did you know that supernatural phenomena still appear in modern society? Urban legends are gradually becoming reality around us. The electric fan that kills you if you turn it on in a closed room, the elevator button that doesn't exist. The Red Mask and many other terrifying urban legends are also appearing. Daydream Corporation manages all of these urban legends. We harvest dream mist from them and create magical medicine to grant your wishes. After finishing the intro, Hache turns and asks, Hey, what exactly is dream mist? Minsong smiles and explains thoroughly, it is the most important resource of Daydream Corporation, and there are wonderful people collecting it for us. Having received a perfectly synced answer, the two of them continue the story. That's right, our amazing field survey team. After watching this promotional video, Sunam suddenly freezes, his face darkening, mouth agape, thinking, what kind of nonsense is this? The story doesn't stop there. It continues with a tense and sensational narrative. Look there. See the courage and wisdom of the field survey team as they act. Your mission is to collect dream mist, a magical ingredient that can only be harvested from supernatural phenomena. Another dream mist collection bottle is full today. The more he hears, the darker Sunam's face becomes. His eyes remain fixed on the phone screen, observing. Did they just replace ghost stories with urban legends to make it sound less scary? They painted it over with friendly words and a cute presentation, but a dark, deep voice echoes, "This is the true nature of Daydream Corporation." A secret organization specialized in creating and selling superior pharmaceuticals. Dream mist is the primary ingredient harvested from ghost stories. With enough dream mist, and you can create anything from addiction cures to elixirs of immortality. They can create superior pharmaceuticals that border on the ability to manipulate reality. Who are the primary buyers of these drugs? Naturally, it is the politicians and the elite. At the end of the day, this is entirely a commercial business. After delivering this information, the video plays a hidden message. Now take your Dream Mist collection bottle and step into the shadows. Field Survey Team Operating Manual. Daydream Corporation. The future of our company rests on your shoulders. A moment later, seeing Sunam silent and not saying anything, Hache and Minsong both ask, "What are you done watching?" He still keeps his head down, his gaze heavy, and his voice rings out with a hint of reluctance. "Yes, it's very impressive." Minsong nods, satisfied. "They call them urban legends and all that, but we have an operating manual to deal with them, so you don't need to worry too much." He walks over and whispers in his ear, "By the way, at our company, we call them shadows. If you don't want people to think you're a ghost story fanatic, just call them that." Hearing these words, his chaotic mind suddenly goes numb. "I feel like people would think I'm a shadow fanatic instead. The shadow mist is thickening." After a while, he stands up and carefully instructs Sunam. "All right, so you've skimmed through the manual then." After a brief exchange, Minsong gives him a look. "Are you ready to go on a survey?" Faced with this question, he is completely stunned. Starting from the very first day of work, Sunam starts looking at the files scattered on the floor. Minutes tick by and he doesn't open his mouth to answer. Minsong checks for a moment and announces, "This afternoon you will carry out a light shadow survey." Hache walks over, takes something out of her pocket, and gives it to him. "Here, take this first." The thing she just handed him is called a Dream Bone Collection Bottle Item Number 11 from the survey file, a special object that exists within the ghost story universe. It's a portable liquid container made by the Daydream Corporation, and it fills up when you survey a piece of urban legend darkness. The company calls the collected liquid Dream Bone. As soon as it was handed to Sunam, Hache specifically warned him to be careful and not to lose it. Every collection bottle has its own unique serial number, and it would be a real headache if one went missing. Hearing that, he started to think, "So it's basically like losing a shell casing, huh?" Hachi's expression didn't change, her voice deep and firm as she gave him a reminder. "Before entering any darkness, make it a habit to put on your mask." "Let me see your mask first." As soon as she finished, Sunam slowly removed the mask he was wearing. Its appearance was unique, as if it had existed for 1,000 years, and upon seeing its extraordinary look, Hache and Minsong were both stunned, barely able to believe how unique the mask was. The two of them started bickering back and forth, full of questions. "Is that a Heo? Or is that a Huang?" After a while of pointless arguing, Hache couldn't help but unleash a heavy punch. "Just consider it a Huang. Are they really that much stronger than the Heo?" A moment later, the atmosphere returned to normal. She gave him a video file and reminded him, "Anyway, put your mask on. And take a look at this." The next video was related to a trending topic, "Do this and get 20 million won or just live normally." A post on the internet, huh? The familiar short text appeared again. "Do this and get 20 million won or just live normally. Play tag with a ghost for 3 days inside a convenience store. No one else within a 10-kilometer radius. Get 20 million won or just live normally." As soon as the text appeared, the silhouette of a strange creature emerged. By the way, this is what the ghost looks like. The second the video stopped there, Minsong immediately asked, "What is that post even about?" Sonam carefully reflected on everything that had been in the video just now. "It's asking if you'd be willing to play tag with a ghost in a convenience store for 3 days in exchange for money." Saying that, he immediately froze, but he looked at the expressions and attitudes of Hache and Minsong, and a strange feeling suddenly rose in his heart. Why are they showing me this when they said... His brain barely processed that thought. Before his mind started to fade into his subconscious, and in his ears, Sunam could still hear the echoes of the conversation about him being about to go survey the darkness. Just relax and enjoy it. Thinking of that, the last bit of his conscious mind flared up. No way. Am I actually being sent off alone to get a contract on my very first day of work, and in a ghost story at that? On the screen, some strange information began to appear. Urban Legend Darkness Survey File, Pick Me. Trapped in here. It made his mind lose clear perception. An urban legend appearing in the Daydream Corporation's designated darkness survey file tagged as DDO-243. A darkness originating from a choice-based scenario appearing abnormally when accessing links containing specific numbers. Victims are often hunted by a murderer or a ghost. And as he wrote who knows how much time had passed, Sunum's mind felt like it was being reborn. Then he sobbed, "It's so dark." Suddenly, within that thick, pitch-black darkness, a powerful source of light rose up. Light. This light was like a medicine waking up Sunum's foggy mind. His mind began to return to its normal trajectory. I'm inside the darkness now. This is the convenience store from the internet post. In his field of vision, everything seemed frozen in place, not moving a muscle as if it had been stagnant there all by itself. For a long time, the clock on the wall struck 12:01. His mind felt suddenly enlightened. At least it seemed like food and shelter wouldn't be a problem to worry about. This darkness is a ghost story designed to harvest mental shock and screams. In other words, your life isn't actually being crushed. Well, for a coward like me, there's only one answer: grab some water and survive the 3 days. A pair of sunken, bloodless eyes appeared right in his mind, which made Sunum jump in terror. He slowly backed away a few steps, wondering, why is there a face inside the refrigerator like that? Suddenly, a voice from somewhere echoed in Sunum's ears. Pick me. A ghost story appearing in the survey file, the victim is often chased by a killer or a ghost. Sunum's consciousness began to fade. His actions were as if someone else was controlling him, and a dark voice whispered, "Caught you." And if they get caught, this voice whispered right into Sunum's ear at point-blank range. He was terrified and instinctively recoiled, his eyes filled with fear. The moment he regained his senses, Sunum bitterly realized it was going to start all over again. The clock suddenly struck exactly 12:00. The digital clock flashed instinctively. The red number marked the 12:00 milestone. Sunum gritted his teeth, cold sweat dripping down his cheek. Back to square one, forcing him to do this hellish thing for 3 days. Oh, for heaven's sake, I'd rather just die, and there's not even any guarantee it will end after 3 days either. Because if he gets caught, he'll just go back to square one again. He kept staring at the infinity symbol on the clock, guessing it meant a literal endless loop of rebirth. Sunum wandered along, looking dazed and lost like a drifter. A coward like me would probably lose his mind before those 3 days are up. I need to find another way. After walking for a bit, he couldn't hold it together anymore. He suddenly collapsed to the ground. First, I have to hide and think this through. If I just keep hiding under the counter, a terrifying face with 2 massive eye sockets suddenly appeared right in front of him. It started to creep closer, slowly inching its way right behind him. Sunum could feel it too. His face went pale with terror, but that face wouldn't stop. It just kept slowly moving closer. Terrified, Sunum kept curling himself up, hiding in the corner of the cabinet. His complexion had turned deathly pale. I knew it. There are so many tired cliches where they suddenly shove their faces right up to yours in moments like this. As his mind was in turmoil, he suddenly brought his hand to his forehead, racking his brain. If I move even a little bit, I'll be discovered. I don't even dare to look at my phone, because the light from the screen would give away his position. He gradually steadied his breathing, searching his mind for any old, forgotten notes. Memories were the only thing he could rely on right now. Think Kim Sunum. There has to be some kind of anomaly. Just when he didn't know what to do, heaven smiled upon him, and a thought flashed through his mind. A case where time passed differently than expected from the urban legend investigation files. Log number 23. Anomaly. Content. A woman driven mad chased someone all night long for 12 hours in an abandoned house. Special note. The investigation ended after 16 hours and 11 minutes. The more famous an urban legend is in that area, the more anomalies it develops. That's just the nature of an encyclopedia entry written by many people. When a new legend is created, it follows set rules. But as it becomes popular and more entries accumulate, similar patterns inevitably start to repeat. That's when people start weaving in exceptions. They add twists to the plot to break free from that repetitive boredom. The note I just remembered is one of those exceptions. A log recording that a field investigation team survived for 12 hours in an abandoned hospital, but with a special note. The investigation ended at 16:11 in a legend. It was supposed to end after surviving for 12 hours, but it took them 4 more hours to escape. A case where an abnormal phenomenon distorted time during the investigation. There must be some kind of special note in that log. Sunam tried to force his brain to remember that day. Come on, remember. The more he thought, the more restless he became. He gripped his hair tightly and gritted his teeth full of anxiety. Let's see, what was it? I'm sure they must have messed something up. And so Sunam's thoughts were stirred once again, dredging up the past. It was because they didn't receive the shift-end notification from the doctor at 3:12 ever since they entered the dark zone at 3:12. Employee Liz accidentally cut the phone line at the counter at 12:12. Ever since entering the dark zone at 12:12, it had been past 7:12 in the morning, but the sun hadn't risen. The legend didn't end, and the doctor's shift continued for 16 hours since entering the dark zone. At 16 hours and 9 minutes, the phone line was successfully restored. The phone rang immediately. At 16:11, the doctor answered the shift change call. At 16:11, the doctor vanished, and the legend ended. Although this story was a case of time being stretched, it contained a clue, meaning there was a specific trigger element that could force the time within the legend to end. The more he thought about that legend, the more his mind churned. If it doesn't end because the time-marking trigger isn't working, then conversely, what if I trigger it earlier? Right at that moment, a voice blared from the intercom, an announcement to all staff. The sound suddenly came in a rushed, repetitive loop. Attention to all staff, attention to all staff. Facing hundreds upon thousands of identical announcements, Sunam's mind felt like it was about to overload. I knew it. The announcement sound didn't just stop. It echoed even more frantically. Sunam knew exactly where this sudden bizarre situation was coming from. It knows I'm here and it's toying with me. I have to get out of here and run fast. Even if I get caught, I can't let myself get used to this feeling of total helplessness. Sunam poured all his confidence into this very moment, since it will be standing right in front of the counter if I slip out to the side. Before he could finish his thought, his gaze froze. He glanced to one side and Sunam finally caught sight of it, a massive creature hugging the intercom speaker. A raspy, deep voice rang out, "Gotcha!" Sunam, now using every ounce of his strength and confidence, lunged straight forward. His mind began to waver, thinking to himself, survive 3 days in your dreams, I'll never make it out alive. After running for that long, Sunam suddenly froze. His face went deathly pale and beads of sweat rolled down. If this keeps repeating like this, my mind will go insane first. Somehow, I have to find the trigger element and start it to push the end time of this legend earlier. Everything around him in the room also began to fall quiet to the point of suffocation. He glanced up at the clock showing the current date and time, April 4th, 2 p.m. If I can force anything to happen 3 days from now based on that clock, it has to happen before the deadline, then this legend will end. Seriously, what is going to happen at the convenience store in 3 days? Stocking items that aren't supposed to arrive for 3 days. No, that's too complicated. Let's think of something a bit simpler. Immersed in the cycle of time for a while, Sunam's eyes widened in shock. Expiration dates. Mentioning that he finally realized and made the connection. Convenience stores dispose of food as soon as they reach their expiration date. If I find a product that expires in the next 3 days and dispose of it early, thinking of that, Sunam didn't hesitate. He lunged straight for the convenience store. He grabbed a lunchbox, took a look, and thought, found you. Deep down he's relieved, but his eyes are filled with fear, darting back and forth as a grotesque, blurred vision begins to form in his mind. The computer screen suddenly flickers to life, and with the room completely empty and the atmosphere unchanged, Sunam whispers to himself, "It's just my imagination. The ghost hasn't appeared yet. Most POS systems let you change the date and time, so I'll set it to 3 days from now, April 7th at 11:59 p.m. After double-checking that everything is correct, he doesn't hesitate and clicks the mouse. The moment he does, his heart starts racing. Please let this work. A moment later, a notification pops up on the system, change successful. Seeing those words, the corner of Sunam's mouth twitches involuntarily. Perfect. It's all going perfectly, but before he can even enjoy it, the system suddenly warns, "Warning, product expiration approaching." Right at that moment, a pitch-black shadow appears in the dark of the room, its eyes wide open, tracking Sunam's every move, appearing in all sorts of positions. From the mundane to the bizarre, it starts mocking him, moving slowly, then suddenly lunging straight at him at full speed. Sunam, terrified, bites his lip, forcing himself to endure it. Don't look, just finish the job." The monster's silhouette begins to fade. Not long after that, the system suddenly displays a prompt, "Do you want to register the expired products for disposal?" Seonum clicks yes without a moment's hesitation. The moment he clicks, the system announces, "Registration complete. Expired products have been marked for immediate disposal." Just then, beads of sweat roll down his face, dripping to the floor. It takes a long time for Seonum to fully emerge from the darkness that had consumed him. He watches the receipt printer at work, stunned. Seeing that everything seems to be going smoothly, he finally lets out a sigh of relief. It worked. I knew it. A person really needs to see the daylight to feel alive. As his mind calms down, Seonum suddenly exclaims, "Because I can finally get out of here." Wait. What? He glances at the papers kept in the safe, stunned. Money. Right then, a thought strikes him. Come to think of it, at the bottom of the encyclopedia, there was that interesting note, "It actually rewards you with cash after completing the task." So is it actually a pretty decent ghost that just likes scaring people? Seonum sighs dismissively at the thought. In another corner of the sky, at this very moment, a dark thunderstorm suddenly rolls in. The new employee won't be here for at least 3 more days, so in the meantime, I should just finish off this paperwork. Ha-che stretches her arms out while walking, groaning, "Writing reports is so incredibly boring." Min-song, walking behind her, chuckles in agreement. Totally. He suddenly stops dead in his tracks, his eyes glued to his tablet. A blinding flash of light erupts. At that exact moment, Sunum reappears. After a few seconds of realizing he's back, Min-song and Ha-che are stunned. Seon doesn't pay much attention, focusing only on the report, "I've filled it all out." The Dream Collector. The minimum time for completion according to the legend is 3 days. Employee Kim Seonum's completion time 1 hour and 24 minutes. About an hour before Seonum returned from the convenience store, Min-song and Ha-che were standing in a corner, smoking and silently watching the sky covered in black clouds. No text provided for this segment. Min-song's thoughts drift unconsciously to him. At this very moment, the team's newest rookie is trapped alone inside a ghost story. His eyes narrow, slightly filled with many emotions. She isn't too worried about Seon because the difficulty level of the initiation is not very high. A 3-day scenario is quite light for a ghost story. Even if it lasts longer, he has food, so there shouldn't be any problem. To be clear about why he had to go through that ordeal as soon as he stepped in, it's because throwing a rookie into the darkness alone is the signature initiation ritual of the D team. Naturally, many new employees have quit because of this terrifying initiation ritual. Because of that, both Ha-che and Min-song have been scolded by the HR manager every time this happens. If things are so unstable, then why does Team D? They continue to put them through this initiation ritual. Because if they can't even handle this, they're better off quitting right now before they throw their lives away. It's better for the rookies to feel the harsh reality of this job from the start than to blindly walk forward and face consequences that can't be undone. Because to both of them, seeing their colleagues, especially a rookie on their team, die like that isn't something anyone wants to witness. The people who were once part of their old stories have all vanished one by one, leaving only broken masks lying still on the cold ground covered by silent white petals. Their gazes land on the photo of Seonum and Kim Tae taken during the employee awards ceremony, and a voice remarks on the rookie. Watching Ha-che's stern face, he calmly comments with that sharp, observant look in his eyes, "That kid is definitely not normal." Min-song nods in agreement, saying not at all, and recalls how Seonum looked when he received the notice to enter the convenience store. You could say he was strangely calm, and it didn't stop there. Min-song can't help but think back to that time. Having seen so many new recruits, most of them panic the moment they find out what we do, but he didn't even blink. A sigh of disbelief escapes Ha-che's throat after hearing the long list of details. His nerves must be made of steel. Keeping a playful smirk, Min-song gives his assessment. Even though we've only met Seonum once, it seems the boss has already set his sights on him. She replies with excitement, saying, "We're always happy to have someone that brave." Taking a deep drag of a cigarette, Hotch suddenly thinks about the future in a deep way. Looking further ahead, he mutters that it would be a huge problem if he were a coward in a department that has to dive headfirst into urban legends every day, but then again, a coward wouldn't have even survived the probation period in the first place. As she contemplates this, she has no idea that Seonum has become the exception, a coward who actually made it through. However, through their conversation and evaluation, both Min-song and Ha-che come to the same conclusion: this rookie is actually not bad at all. Suddenly, the process of when he received the mission flashes before her eyes, making her suspicious. The kid didn't take a single note, and hearing that, Min-song immediately explains on his behalf, saying this is his first job, so he probably doesn't know much yet, thinking about that. He states each word firmly with a solid tone, saying, I will have to tell him that recording information is essential in this industry, because our lives depend on it. Hache nods in agreement without objection, saying, yeah, be sure to tell him that. Exhaling a breath, she continues the topic, saying when someone teaches him to write things down so he can review and understand them correctly later. He laughs and adds exactly, acting as if he already knew all that information beforehand. Little did they know, thanks to that memory phone stand, Seon actually knew in advance what others had to stumble through themselves after a break on the office rooftop. Minsong decides to leave the area. After all, that rookie shouldn't be out for at least another 3 days. And Hache lets out a tired sigh, saying, I'll probably go process a pile of paperwork while I wait. Just as the two of us are about to leave, the tablet in Minsong's hand suddenly reacts strongly. Sensing something unusual, he immediately picks it up to check and frowns. Why is it vibrating all of a sudden? A sudden flash makes him quickly turn the device toward the other side, and before they can understand what's happening, a figure is spat straight out right in front of them. Faced with the shock of the two seniors, a calm Seon holds up the bone collection jar and reports, I've cleared the level. As soon as that sentence ends, both Minsong and Hache freeze on the spot. Their thoughts are chaotic, filled with a ghost story that should have taken at least 3 days. Yet it was cleared by a rookie in just 1 hour. Meanwhile, Seon internally sighs in relief, though he remains calm on the outside. I really thought my heart was about to stop. A little while later, as sweet cakes are placed on the table, the familiar voice speaks up. That convenience store was supposed to be a 3-day ghost story and sitting across from Seon. Minsong can't believe it and immediately asks, the 3 days haven't even passed yet. How were you able to get out? Hearing this, he hesitates for a moment, then says, oh. After a few seconds of thoughtful silence, he answers concisely, as if it were obvious I fast-forwarded time. This leaves both Minsong and Hache completely speechless. He says it so casually, as if he were choosing a lunch item off a menu. To explain further, Seon holds up a pen and points straight at the tablet screen, saying, since there's a time limit there, I figured there must be an event that triggers the timing. The time passing inside that ghost story. If I trigger the 3rd day's event early, the ghost story will end sooner. So by tossing out food based on the expiration dates, I can clear the stage before the 3-day limit is up. After hearing his entire analysis, both Hache and Minsong fell into absolute silence, simultaneously reaching the conclusion that he was a genius at field investigation. In their eyes, he was someone who had everything under control, with a line as arrogant as, ghost stories are the easiest thing in the world, anyone can do it. The secret to escaping has been revealed, the meteoric rise of the exceptional rookie Kim Sunum. A rookie who breaks every record. These thoughts were enough to ignite the burning determination of the veteran employees Hache and Minsong, forbidden to resign. No, we have to ensure he can't escape. Wait, no. I mean, we need to help him adapt really well. Without wasting a moment to ponder, Minsong grabbed Sunum's hand with enthusiasm that went way overboard. When you hit it big, don't forget about me. Hache, the rookie beside him, also nodded and added, he'll definitely surpass me and get promoted to assistant manager soon. But amidst the atmosphere heating up by the second, Sunum suddenly spoke up, looking utterly confused, causing both of them to freeze. No, that's not it. Actually, after a few seconds of hesitation, he continued slowly, with a face as dark as a pot bottom. At the moment I revealed the truth, which was extremely serious, I was terrified. That's why I had to get out as quickly as possible. Having said that, he seriously added one more determined sentence. Next time, at least give me an hour's warning, okay? That complaint left both Hache and Minsong dumbfounded. But you cleared the stage in just 1 hour. Hearing that, Sunum immediately replied without hesitation, yeah, I thought for sure I was a goner. At that moment, both of them were practically screaming in their hearts, stop lying! Forget what we just said! Hache directly jumped over the awkwardness and moved on to an equally important issue. So how much did you make? Hearing that sudden question, he just stared, blankly confused. Huh? Seeing that reaction, she glanced at the bag of cash beside him and clarified, you get paid for solving that ghost story. Only then did Sunum realize what she meant, and after a moment of hesitation, he replied without any hesitation, oh, I received 10 million won. The moment the words left his lips, slender fingers belonging to one of the group were placed straight onto his shoulder, and they decisively declared, you just keep it all. Sunum kept his body still skeptical. Wait, what? Patting his shoulder to reassure him. Hache continued to explain with an incredibly generous attitude, normally the company takes half, but you worked hard, so just keep it all. We'll handle the paperwork using our seniority experience, so you don't need to worry about anything else. Seeing Sunam still silent, she thought the other party was just being shy. So she immediately pressed him, "Don't be polite," and refused, "Just take it." But the truth was that the amount wasn't just 10, but 20 million won. His conscience couldn't help but waver as he thought to himself, it was supposed to be split in half. After the conversation wrapped up, she stood up and said with a meaningful tone, "All right, now that the work is done, it's time for the most important part." Minsong, who had been silent until now, heard this and also laughed with excitement. "Ah, time for that, is it?" Their expressions left Sunam unable to hide his curiosity. "That," he replied excitedly, "point allocation for the employee benefits shopping page." He opened his computer and logged into the company's internal network. The registration system appeared on the screen in an instant. "Welcome employee Kim Sunam. Points will be granted after the review process." On the desk, which was now neatly organized, sat all sorts of cute stationery, and beside it a small plush lizard with round, wide eyes. By now, the evaluation and point accumulation happened rapidly, enough for him to clearly understand, so a solo E-rank clear gets 100 points. And so he immediately began searching for information with hands nimbly surfing the mouse. Let's see if there's anything worth buying with 100 points. Right on the first page, a robotic vacuum cleaner caught his eye. Looking at the household items displayed there, he couldn't help but freeze for a moment, then whispered in shock, questioning himself, "Better than I thought. So then how much does a wish ticket cost?" Just as that thought popped up, the screen showing the vial that could make every wish come true appeared right before his eyes with a bright red number. Sunam couldn't help but be startled, as if struck by lightning, as he clearly read each number in front of him, 500,000. The little lizard toy on the desk seemed to be mocking him, tilting over. No way. Sunam's mind kept racing to calculate the amount of money he could earn at high speed. If he solo cleared an E-rank stage every day, it would take 15 years. Suddenly a thought flashed. Wait, hold on. What if I enter a higher rank stage? Thinking of this, he immediately opened the point guide by shadow rank. E-rank, 100 points. D-rank, 1,000 points. C-rank, 2,500 points. B-rank, 10,000 points. And A-rank is 100,000 points, while S-rank is a separate evaluation. Sunam was even more amazed. B-rank gives 10,000 points. Of course, things wouldn't be that easy. When Sunam proceeded to pose a hypothesis, "There's no way I'd go alone, so assuming 3 people go together," taking the fixed number of 10,000 divided by 3, it only made him more stuck. Do I need to clear B-rank stages 150 times? My heart is screaming in helplessness. Are they out of their minds? The survival rate for civilians in a B-rank stage is only 2%. Just thinking about having to go in and out of this inescapable journey makes me shudder. Sunam feels like his soul is about to evaporate. If he goes in there 150 times, he's definitely a dead man. Once he finishes his own business, he slowly walks over and breaks into a friendly smile. With that smile always present on his lips, he asks, "Did you finish registering your points already?" Contrary to that cheerful exterior, Sunam is still lost in a state of mental shock, so he doesn't even bother to look up. After a moment of hesitation, he replies, "Not yet," not really caring about the terrifying topic of points for too long. He glances over at the desk, cluttered with decorative items, and asks, "What's with all this stuff on the desk? What do you think about it?" He lets out an interested sound and then decisively reveals, This is the team leader's desk." This catches him by surprise, so this desk actually has an owner. But in the meantime, Min Seong continues to talk nonchalantly, maintaining an extremely natural attitude, and doesn't forget to remind him that the team leader is currently away on business outside the office. So as long as you don't break the computer monitor, feel free to use it. At this point, Sunam is even more convinced. This is typical of a company that harvests medicine from ghost stories. Trying to use common sense to understand this place is truly a mistake. Meanwhile, Min Seong doesn't forget to offer, "Want a cigarette?" The rookie firmly refuses, "No, I'm good." As he turns his gaze back to the computer screen covered in data, a determination gradually forms in his mind, a fierce one. I need a way to survive. As that thought crosses his mind, Seonum's hand slowly lifts the keyboard, tilting it back and forth to observe it carefully. With a calm expression, as if this were the most natural thing in the world, he thinks, "It looks like I'll need to take a shortcut." The moment he flips the bottom of the keyboard and discovers the special detail, he thinks with satisfaction, there it is, A sticky note is pasted there, completely lacking any security awareness. It has the username of team leader Lee Cha-hun and the password 105105301. Getting exactly what he needed, he immediately starts typing the information into the screen with lightning speed. I'm going to log into the welfare shopping site. Using this account. However, the moment he tries to confirm access, the system displays an error message, password does not match. Seonam had already anticipated there might be a slight hurdle. He wasn't worried because the registration requirement mandates at least one uppercase letter in the password. So all he needs to do is capitalize the first letter of what's on the note. Then just type it in. Done in a split second, he successfully logs in. When the welcome manager Lee Cha-hun notification appears, his hand beneath the desk clenches in excitement to celebrate in silence. All right. Hidden deep within the Daydream Corporation's internal system is an advertisement only visible to those at the manager level and above. It's called the Alien Shop. Among the aliens appearing in the 6th Dark Exploration era, some show the highest level of capitalism by selling items to humans. Communication might be inconvenient and the goods dangerous, but the items here are surprisingly useful, and it's clear they are targeting Daydream employees. As the primary customers, the managers have hidden illegal ad links throughout the company network. Fortunately, Seonam remembers the exact procedure to get there. Because the access method is very simple, just click randomly around the welfare shopping site with a calm expression as if what he is doing isn't using his boss's account for personal gain. He continues step by step, and when he hits the back button 5 times in a row, suddenly a small grayish hand, Asis, appears along with a series of inviting messages. 1-year anniversary appreciation event, up to 80% off, bored of working. Click here if you want to become stronger. Click here if you want some cool items. Click here. The electronic hand attracts attention by waving as if it's saying hello. Seonam just feels like it's trash. Regarding the compensation and benefits at Daydream when clearing a B-rank dark stage according to the company's established guidelines, employees receive 50% of the generated profit. In short, the company skims off the other 50%. Donghyun, standing nearby, chimes in with a chilling remark that the profit from a rookie's first assigned dark stage will be confiscated entirely. A pit of fire, can it really be that interesting? Facing the X-shaped hands constantly shaking it back and forth on the screen. Seonam cannot help but conclude, based on his own knowledge, that this thing, which looks like a prehistoric internet ad, is ransomware. It's an ad for a shopping mall that only appears for managers, and one can access the website directly by clicking this shady banner. But seeing that no mouse is clicking it, it becomes even more animated than ever. Customer appreciation program for our 1-year anniversary. Are you bored? Do you want to become stronger? Do you want to own some really cool items? Sweat starts running down his cheeks. Seonam clearly understands the consequences of clicking randomly. Through using Lee Cha-hun's account, the company computer will save the connection history. I'll just save the link and log in from home. So after a busy day at the company, he is finally able to return to the house. Assigned to him where he can surf the web on his phone to his heart's content, remembering the ad address that his own brain had processed. Seonam slowly dragged his fingertips across the screen as he manually typed in the link he'd saved earlier. And the very next moment, a shopping interface materialized before his eyes. The entire frame flickered with glitchy, distorted color bands, as if it were suffering from a severe display error, but after a frantic limbo dance of overlapping numbers and symbols, it stabilized. The official interface of the Cosmic Mall finally settled down, displaying a slogan for super cool items from outer space, along with buttons to browse through the goods. The starry cosmic backdrop flooded his vision, leaving Seonam in a brief, pensive moment. It looked so cheesy, and it wasn't even optimized for mobile. However, regardless of how it looked, he decided to tap the link to the item list anyway. He couldn't afford to let his guard down just because it looked tacky. The items sold here were... Then the very next second, the spaceship icon hovered over the like button, and he couldn't help but say, "Let me see what you've got." In the blink of an eye, a whole range of items appeared before Seonam's eyes in a list format. It was truly bizarre. A rush of excitement surged through his body at the unexpected discovery he had made. He realized more than half of these were good. Just by glancing at the icons and the accompanying notes for each item, he was able to filter them out. He recognized the dining set, the walkie-talkies, and the camping set, but the other two were quite new to him, especially the first mysterious item, which looked like a distress bell. The price was over 60 million won, which immediately made Seonam hesitate. This was way over his budget. Better skip it then. With the 20 million won he'd earned from the ghost incident at the convenience store, he had to think carefully about what would yield the highest profit. Since his initial income was quite modest compared to everything the store had on offer, his eyes betrayed a look of, well, that'll do, after a few quick swipes. All right, this is the one. Once the order was placed, there was naturally a processing period as the interface showed, please wait a moment transferring funds. From his account, and without making Sean wait too long, a notification bar officially popped up with 4 large words, purchase successful. It didn't stop there. The spaceship icon added that the item was being delivered by rocket. A bead of sweat rolled down his cheek. It seemed like a certain scene. He was stunned for a moment. It wasn't anything else but the countdown timer for the delivery, which only used seconds as the numbers ticked down. 0 minutes, 3 seconds, 0 minutes, 2 seconds, and finally, 0 minutes, 1 second. The moment the process finished, a piercing ring echoed out. A spatial rift tore open in midair, dropping the items that Seon had ordered. Looking at the packages still steaming hot from being ordered just seconds ago, he hadn't yet recovered from the shock and could only let out a sound. Beyond his awe, silence reigned until he regained his composure. Seon couldn't help but mutter about the rocket speed delivery. From the alien store, this crazy world actually has its perks. It's not just all terrifying things. Naturally, after getting his hands on the items, the first thing to do was to start unboxing the items he had chosen. On the wooden desk in his bedroom lay the Alec camping set he had recognized along with the silver copper snake he had never seen before. To observe them more closely, Seon opened the first item, the Alec camping set. It had the ability to temporarily change the effects of an item. Drinks would have their effects doubled, while cookies would have them halved. It would be very useful to carry 1 or 2 around. Next, he didn't forget to pick up the silver copper snake. The item had been marked down from 20 million won to 5 million won. Seon had bought it on an impulse after seeing that staggering original price, but there was a deeper reason behind it. The choice was his, because this was an investment. There were many different types of ghost story currencies in this world, and they could be converted into cash through specific factions. If he bought them while they were on sale, he could later exchange them for a full cash payout. Since no one was watching anyway, Seon clasped his hands and prayed it would surely turn a profit someday. I'm waiting for it. It's going to fly to the moon. This wasn't gambling, nor was it wishful thinking. This was a completely level-headed and rational decision. And why didn't Seon buy the rest? The reason wasn't complicated. It was simply because he couldn't use them. They mentioned the top-selling item in the alien shop, the blood-sucking dining set. A weapon to fight ghosts directly, no way Seon. If he used that, the end result would be nothing short of a suicide mission to the afterlife, and he'd never find his way back home. Furthermore, the special tag in the item name made him question himself who on earth would go around sucking blood from a ghost. Could he even act like a nurse and call the convenience store ghost to sit down while he said, I'm going to extract your dream essence? The same thing applied to the wide-range walkie-talkie. It would be so awkward to convince his boss to carry it around. Assistant manager, is this walkie-talkie actually a relic? It's not a toy. At that moment, Seon could already imagine the dead fish stare he'd get from Manhwa. What is that? Where did you get that? He had only just started imagining it, and it already made sweat pour down his cheeks. It would be so troublesome if she asked where I got it. How could I possibly tell her I logged in with the boss's eye to buy it? Finally, Seon concluded that items like the Alec camping set and the silver copper snake were definitely the best choices for now. After all the free items he'd claimed and the ones he'd bought, he needed to take inventory. He had 4 things: a phone stand, a memory marble, a laughing snake sticker, and a camping set for the copper snake. He scanned through them pensively, letting out a heavy sigh that carried a swirl of conflicting emotions. Saying this out loud sounded a bit strange, but buying fictional items for real-life use actually felt pretty cool. Right on cue, the system popped up a note about the situation. It seemed Sunham had truly enjoyed the shopping spree, but everything has its ups and downs. That day he'd had to sleep through nightmares, sweating buckets all night long. The downside of that shopping trip was that the fictional ghosts came along as a free gift. And meanwhile, the alien store didn't forget to offer a star rating. With that classic line you hear from any service provider, are you satisfied with your shopping experience? Please leave a review for the shopping center. At the Daydream Company building, standing tall under the sun, a familiar voice echoed through the vast space, talking about ghost stories. The ones we manage regularly right today, we're going into one of those. As it turned out, that voice belonged to no one else but the ever-lively Team D. Hache continued offering some rather useless comfort to the dungeon-clearing prodigy Sun. It's just a dark abyss, so there's nothing to worry about. Sun kept his smile but didn't forget to confirm with his teammate. Yeah, it's about the same difficulty level as the orientation, right? So there definitely won't be any issues. Sun didn't seem enthusiastic in the slightest, adding, but that still gave me severe psychological trauma. Seeing the other person wasn't feeling it yet, she directly added in a tone of absolute certainty, you cleared that one when you had zero knowledge at all. Now that you've got the guidebook, there's no way you can't do it. Min-sung excitedly chimed in, we'll head out the moment the team leader arrives. After a moment of pensive thought, Sun replied, sure, while his brain silently shifted to focus on the positives. At least it was better than playing tag with a ghost in a convenience store alone. After receiving a satisfactory answer, he didn't forget to hand over a document titled, Ranking Manual and Answer Key for the Third Quiz Show. We're going in this afternoon, so read the guidebook beforehand. Naturally, Min-sung couldn't skip the detailed briefing for the new recruit who had only just finished 2 cases. It's a ghost story you'll be participating in. As a player in a quiz show, a type of game where, if you give the wrong answer, you'll face a horrible penalty. Just remember the answers and don't do anything strange and you'll be fine. Following that, he tilted his body slightly while bringing up a question. Should I give you a paper version of the guide so it's easier to take notes? Little did he know the answer Min-sung would get was Sun's nonchalant, oh no need. Both of them, Hache and Min-sung, who had been through countless big and small events, were stunned by his declaration, I've memorized it all. Recalling when he assigned the convenience store clear-out task to Min-sung, couldn't help but raise his voice. So that's why you didn't take any notes. She was equally shocked, blurting out, what? In their eyes, he was nothing short of a genius with an extraordinary memory capable of recalling thousands of digits of pi. Sweat beaded on Min-sung's temples, and he couldn't help but conclude with a firm tone, the team leader will definitely find working with you incredibly easy. Even Ha-che standing next to them had to admit, seriously. Sun had been labeled an adventure genius and a king of rote memorization. He didn't understand why the two in front of him were overreacting. But he didn't dwell on it for long as his mind shifted to a subject worth pondering. Thinking about it, I still haven't met the Team D leader. He glanced at the adorably decorated desk, belonging to Lee Cha-hun, thinking to himself, they said they'd be here this afternoon, so I'll be able to meet them soon. Even though Sun thought so, things that seemed like they would run smoothly never do. An anomaly occurred the moment Ha-che took a call, then rubbed her head in frustration. Sorry, this is going to be difficult. Our team leader still isn't back at the office, I understand. After the call ended, she lashed out verbally because of what she had just been told. Are these people out of their minds? They said we should just go in with the rookie. Min-sung immediately asked to confirm, they want just the 3 of us to go. He let out a sigh of frustration. Hache recounted the whole story clearly. It's the end of the month now. Plus the rookie only started yesterday and has already done so well. That was the problem with adults having to rush to meet company quotas. Hearing this, he understood clearly. Well, regarding the work targets, I mean, things have reached this point anyway. She got straight to the point about what really matters right now. Hey, rookie, have you memorized that entire list of answers yet? He couldn't stop wondering to himself if there was any way we could avoid going in there. If only I had said I hadn't memorized the manual. But unfortunately, before Shonam could get a single word out, Min-sung had already dragged him onto this giant ship. He had memorized the entire guide to the Gi Cole boots by heart. So this little thing was just a piece of cake. It left him with nothing but a sinking feeling in the pit of his stomach, feeling like he was falling into an abyss. Seeing that Seonam didn't offer any resistance, Hache turned around and urged him directly, well then, let's just go ourselves today. Before leaving, she didn't forget to make it clear that since this kind of thing happened from time to time, there was no need to worry. After a moment of silence, Seonam replied, yeah. Now regret started bubbling up to question him. I told you not to do this. He pondered deeply. Was this how he was being punished for accepting that 20 million won? However, what made Seonam hesitate before the third trivia show was completely justified. The problem was this ghost story. He had never read about it in the Shadow Exploration Chronicles. He had been constantly swiping the screen and searching through all sorts of text, but the results always came back empty, making Seonam feel more troubled than ever. Of course, he had thought there might be ghost stories he hadn't seen before, but he never expected to be stepping into such an unfamiliar story this soon. Could the company's list of abyssal realms be much larger than he had imagined? Following that, Hache handed over an old-fashioned postcard, one that seemed to have weathered countless years toward him. She explained that the method of entry was simple. He just needed to write his name in the sender's section. After a moment of hesitation, the three of them took turns filling in their names and their masked representative personas. Each of them, Badger, Falcon, and Rabbit, carefully wrote out every single letter. Finally, Seon finished with the last stroke. The moment the pen tip lifted was the exact moment. The postcard bearing their names swirled around in the pitch-black space before they officially entered the ghostly realm they needed to conquer. Naturally, the plot setup couldn't be missing. It acted as a guide for the first few events. One day I found a strange postcard in an old magazine. It came with a promotional leaflet. It was recruiting participants for a trivia show, but when I searched for it, no such broadcast existed. Perhaps they only used it as a theme for a postcard. That's all. Out of curiosity, I wrote my name in the senders section for fun, and I was dragged into a truly bizarre trivia show. Everyone, what exactly is a performance show? In the very next moment, the space around the group began to transform, shifting into an entirely different scene, where blinding light from stage equipment erupted violently. As if pushed to maximum power in the next second, the third trivia show with Rue officially began with a captivating introduction. A proper stage, and a dapper, well-dressed host. But it didn't stop there. As waves of drum beats echoed along with the calm presence of Min Sung and Hache, and the rhythmic voice of the host, the sound of the band played on. The enthusiastic participants, much to the surprise of the new contestant Seon continued to hype up the atmosphere to the max. But that wasn't all. "The show is truly created through our connection with all of you," the host Rue shouted with even higher energy than before. "The host for tonight is me, Rue, so from now on don't forget to cheer as loudly as you can." Winking mischievously at the television screen, he displayed the confidence of someone who had everything in the palm of his hand, declaring, "Welcome to the third trivia show." He started his hosting duties with great enthusiasm. "Oh, look at our contestants today." He stood in front of them, his tone incredibly sycophantic, pretending to care about them. "Welcome to the third trivia show. I know you're all very nervous about your first broadcast, but a smile is the foundation of any good show." A white smiley face appeared in the middle of Rue's screen. "So let's all face it with a big, bright smile." Shanum looked at the host's appearance. "Bye," and suddenly blurted out, "ATV!" Thinking that it was just a TV-headed host actually helped quite a bit. He scanned the studio and silently judged that it wasn't half bad. A bit retro, but just a standard game show studio with an audience feeling exactly like those classic American talk shows. Suddenly he remembered something that made him pause for a few seconds. Sunum recalled the pieces of the puzzle one by one and began to take it seriously. "Wait, hold on. A classic American talk show, reckon. A quiz segment where the contestants already knew the answers." He broke into a cold sweat, realizing in a panic that this ghost story. Contrary to his anxious thoughts, Rao was still actively hosting. "It seems like we're all ready to get started now. Let's get this show on the road. 2. All of you." He slowly counted down. 3. He had remembered it. A ghost story appearing in the Dream Corporation Ghost Story universe. Broad daylight. ID code DEA-104. Everyone was still chatting happily, a sharp contrast to Sunum's anxiety. Sonum had figured it all out. The starting point of the disaster, the scandal-level adjustment, the countless casualties left behind the A-level darkness. The numbers were all there, he shouted. Fear was written all over Sunum's face. The official number of survivors, a perfectly round number, flashed in his mind, horrifyingly 00000. Sonum pulled himself together to continue this unsettling program. Even if he was trapped in a ghost story, he still had to do his job. Stained, terrifying, and chilling footage slowly played in his head. While Sonum was lost in thought, the show had fully begun. The tragedy started with a darkness themed around an American talk show from the 70s, originally assigned by the boss. The expression on Rao's screen changed. "Good evening, audience. You are watching the Tuesday quiz show." He was incredibly cheerful and confident, asking the audience, "Everyone's been looking forward to Tuesday, haven't they?" The footage played alongside Rao's narration. The host explained that this talk show had a different theme for every day of the week, but there have been no recorded cases of anyone entering on any day other than day 0. He suddenly changed his tone, emphasizing, "I have the footage." It started to shift. One can only enter the talk show on day 0. Introductions were made and the lights began to focus on the masked contestants because that was the only day. We get to meet our lovely new faces after they've participated for a while. But thanks to their preparations, there were no casualties. The field investigation team had entered since episode 1. With a full answer key for the main part of the Day 0 quiz, as of episode 11099 investigations had been completed, without a single casualty, including the prize, but everything was about to change because of something. However, what happened next was in episode 111, the 100th investigation. Back in the present, Rao was starting the introduction excitedly. Now, let's introduce our contestants. The Badger, the Falcon, the Burger, and Mr. Deer. The icons on Rao's screen changed dynamically with his words and emotions. Will our contestants be able to maintain their winning streak this week as well? Don't change the channel and stay tuned with us. The atmosphere was incredibly fun, but the anxiety was still clear on Sunum's face. The 110th Tuesday quiz show started right now. His eyes suddenly widened in shock as he realized the 110th time meant the 99th investigation wasn't the 100th. Hache suddenly turned her attention to him. She looked at him with a sinister gaze, not forgetting to flash a smile while Min Seong was beaming, his eyes crinkling. Sunum observed his surroundings silently, assessing everything. Factually speaking, the odds of a disaster occurring exactly on the 100th attempt were very low. His seniors looked quite relaxed. It would be fine. It had to be fine. Contrary to their ease, he was extremely serious. However, don't let your guard down, this was still a ghost story. In his mind, Sunum remembered a dangerous rule. Any act of disrespect toward the program would lead to elimination. Hindering the broadcast would result in being burned to ash. Their faces appeared on the screens, and this quiz show was being broadcast live. He was painfully aware of the danger he was in. That meant any spontaneous action outside the script was basically a death sentence. Rao held his microphone, noticed his expression, and asked with feigned concern, "Oh my, Mr. Deer, you look quite nervous, don't you? Are you all right?" Sunum made up a plausible excuse. "Oh yes, I'm just a bit nervous since this is my first time on a quiz show." Everything shifted, the mood turning serious. "Good, very good. Then let's start with an easy question." The question appeared right in front of Sunum, looking quite simple. Question: which of the following is not a component of the human body? 1 water, 2 iron, 3 oil, 4 soil. An answer was given immediately. Number 4, soil. A smiley face icon appeared again, along with Rao's thumbs up. Correct. Min Seong smiled and gave the explanation, and a notification chime rang out. The Badger was correct. Impressive. He was shocked to see the 3 of them answering so easily. No way. The Falcon, the Burger, and so on. Sunum was deep in thought while Rao stood by watching as if to pressure him further. Mr. Deer is having trouble choosing an answer. He's hesitating. He's really, truly hesitating. His eyes flashed with certainty as he gave his answer at the same time, number 3. He repeated the answer, leading the viewers into suspense. Number 3, so what fate awaits Mr. Deer, who chose option strangulation? A smiley face icon appeared alongside a correct icon, signaling to everyone that Sunum had finally managed to crack a slight smile. The tension was gone. I mean, it was obvious the answer was 3. But the questions kept coming, followed by a continuous barrage of congratulatory sounds from Rao. All right, next question. Correct. Correct, wow. This time we're actually following the manual and staying safe. Wait, correct. Hold on again. Correct. The entire studio cheered for the current results while Rao, looking genuinely surprised, exclaimed, "Incredible, absolutely incredible. The contestants are on a winning streak. They've answered every single question correctly. Before we knew it, we've already reached the final question of this episode." He gestured towards Sunum and asked clearly if they could conquer this last question as well. No, Rao, still incredibly enthusiastic, asked, "Mr. Hudo, are you ready?" In stark contrast, he looked utterly exhausted. "Yeah!" Rao shouted excitedly. "Let's get started!" The next question popped up. At what percentage of blood loss will a human die? 140%, 245%, 350%, 455%. Sunum's face went completely blank. Not sure if he was even thinking straight. He opened his mouth to reply. The answer is... He slowly gave his own answer, number 1. Rao immediately chirped, repeating his words and comparing them with the options. He had chosen number 1, but to everyone's surprise, the answer didn't stop there. And number 2? And number 3? And number 4 as well. Faced with his behavior, Rao fell completely silent, represented by a silence icon. Sunam, full of confidence, met Rao's eyes and asserted, "All of them are correct." Below, rows of cold, sharp eyes were watching and ears were tuned into his every word. On average, when a person loses about 30 to 40% of their blood, their life is in danger, so if they lose more than that, they will die. Rao led the show, avoiding any dullness, choosing multiple correct answers, truly bold. Rao continued to double-check. "Are you sure you don't want to change your answer?" At that moment, someone was running around in a panic while he had already locked in his final answer. Rao was being fed the answer from someone off-screen, but Sunam calmly reiterated, "I'm sticking with that choice." Rao was stunned in place. The answer our scriptwriters were aiming for was actually number 1. Rao didn't criticize him at all. Instead, he led the crowd in cheering for the answer. That left him completely surprised. But he added, "Isn't Mr. Hugh Doe's answer much more memorable?" He happily announced, "We'll count this as a perfect answer, outstanding 100 points. Sunam breathed a sigh of relief upon hearing that. "I'm alive." The spotlight focused back on one spot, and Rao began his closing remarks. And with that, the 110th episode of the Tuesday Quiz Show concludes here. Rao emphasized the most important part. But in the end, there can be only one survivor, Min Song. He sighed in relief while Hache, exhausted, yawned widely. It had all ended peacefully, but her disrespectful behavior was immediately reprimanded. "If you really can't help but yawn, the polite thing to do is to cover it where the camera can't see okay," Rao repeated. "But in the end, there can be only one." The final spotlight hit Sunam's spot. It left him completely confused, standing there blankly trying to respond to the show's congratulations. "Mr. Hudo, congratulations." Rao was handing him a gift box. From the show. A huge round of applause filled the room. He felt a bit awkward, but didn't forget his manners, thanking everyone. While he accepted it, he was still puzzled. "But why me?" Sunam sighed in relief, ignoring the reason and just celebrating. After all, it was finally over. Sunam told himself, "As soon as the cameras go off, we can get out of here." 2 numbers unexpectedly appeared, 99. Rao started to say goodbye, expressing regret, but still happily shouting, "It's a shame, but it's time to close the Tuesday Quiz Show. See you next Tuesday. Tomorrow we'll have an even more amazing guest." Rao's broadcast image began to glitch. The images of the others glitched as well, to end the show, but it was hard to understand why. Sonam's expression remained shocked at something. The lights refocused on the contestants' podiums. A series of lights were still shining inexplicably. The lights focused on the people around him, leaving 3 of them standing there bewildered, looking at the numbers as they started to change again. At this moment, they just stared at each other with big question marks in their heads. Min Song and Hache's expressions also grew more serious. Those illuminated by the lights were looking around in confusion. The numbers were shifting constantly. The final number appeared, accompanied by the terror on Sunam's face. It was clearly visible on his face, 100. Sunam suddenly looked at the people hit by the lights and wondered, are they members of the field investigation team? Why did they all end up in the same ghost story? On the other side, they were still standing there, blank-faced, asking, "What is this?" They were confused by what was unfolding before their eyes. "What about the people who came before us?" A piece of paper appeared with lines of text, "Television Show Survival Guide. Interfering with the broadcast will result in incineration." A fire suddenly erupted in the studio. Hache's eyes widened, looking at the flames burning. "Rao!" snapped his fingers, cutting off everyone's confusion. "Surprise, here is a preview of the members appearing next Tuesday." Sunam looked fearfully at the burning pile of ashes nearby. He tried to tell himself not to react at all. The camera opposite him still had its red light on, so he realized they were still recording. From that camera that was still recording, he remembered a rule: any behavior showing disrespect to the program will result in immediate removal. His hands were trembling uncontrollably, and he could only curse under his breath. Damn it all. He reluctantly lifted the box, put on a fake smile, and slowly whispered, "Who's next in line to follow in my footsteps? Make sure to tune in next week." Music swells, confetti, and fake flower petals burst into the air, and while Sunam is still performing for the cameras, he is standing right next to her, clapping along. Du hugs her and casually says goodbye, and Sunam forces a reluctant smile. It's a shame, but that's a wrap for today. We'll be back tomorrow with an even more exciting show. Du changes the icon on his screen to bid the audience farewell, and the stage lights flare back up. Behind the scenes of a smooth shoot, Du sighs in relief. He almost ruined the live broadcast. Luckily, everything went fine. As another staff member busily cleans up the debris, a cheerful Du quickly extends an invitation to Sunam, whom he had just introduced. You handled that situation really well. Would you like to become a regular guest on the show? He gently declines, I already have a job. Despite his calm demeanor, the other three are panicked. Oh man, this is a disaster. The new participants must have been spooked by a fan. I'm sure they didn't mean to mess up the broadcast, so don't get too discouraged. Du happily announces to the three of them that they will all have a chance to participate very soon. That staff member leans in and whispers something to Du. The happy icon shifts to a sad one, and he walks closer, his tone melancholy yet ambiguous as he reveals the news. This is a bit difficult to announce. Images of the show's sign collapsing flash through his mind. Our program has just been canceled. The news Du announces makes Sunam's expression turn grim. To be precise, the third game show has been canceled. Not that his show is ending completely, but the competitive segment has been replaced. Hache also looks sullen, trying to listen to his rambling. Well, of course, that doesn't mean it's all over. We have some good news. A wave of anxiety hits No Way. His sudden announcement leaves her completely stunned. We're going to invite all of you to participate in this new segment as well. Sunam is breaking out in a cold sweat, deeply worried about this development. Critical information starts surfacing in his mind. Exploration Diary number 100. A paper appears with lines of text reporting the completion of the third game show. He reflects on all the information. It began in the same studio as the previous episodes, and current events are unfolding exactly as he remembers. However, the program name has changed. The host explains to the confused staff that the third game show was canceled because allegedly one participant, Chaish, answered correctly 99 times in a row, making the penalties meaningless, so this segment was dropped for not being stimulating enough. He worries as he thinks about the script and finally understands. And the new segment is... Du speaks up, cutting off Sunam's train of thought. It's actually pre-recorded, so it'll be much easier than before. He remains incredibly cheerful, ignoring the gloomy faces of the others. Even though I'll only be in a supporting role, I'll do my best to make it a great show. A voice rings out, interrupting his announcement. Wait a second. A weary Hache bluntly informs him, we've already participated, so we're going to head back now. Du's screen shifts to a frightening red, and his tone turns unpleasant. The recording isn't over yet, you know, and you plan on just leaving. Du closes the distance to her with an intimidating presence and gently informs her, oh my, I'm sure all the important notices were written on the registration card. It would be very difficult for us if you all just walked out in the middle of things. A fiery icon flashes on Du's screen, displaying his anger, and he says sharply, is it really impossible for you people? Sunam steps in, gently trying to soothe the anger of both sides. No, we just didn't expect to have to participate in 2 programs back-to-back. He gives a gentle warning anyone can make a mistake during a broadcast, his mind filled with determination to prevent any casualties. He has to stop this. Sunam offers a gentle proposal. I think we need some time to prepare, so we'll take our leave for today. And he tells himself that at any cost, I have to find an excuse to get out of here. He suggests a suitable appointment. We'll come back to participate next Tuesday. The logistics team holds up a sign showing they are all set, and he exclaims with regret, oh man. It looks like the preparations for the recording are already complete. Du bluntly demands they take their seats, ignoring the discomfort on everyone's faces. Come on, let's get into our seats. It's time to start the show. Blinding lights from the stage floodlights shone down on Rao while Sonam, frustrated and bitter, spat out that guy's name. There is absolutely no way to get through to him. Rao started counting down again, and everything began 3, 2, 1, go! Rao continued to host the show with excitement just like before, but this time it wasn't fun. The atmosphere felt a bit terrifying. Welcome, audience, to the joy of Day 3, the passion of Day 3 right here, right now. You are watching the latest episode on our talk show. Rao held the script in his hand to continue hosting. No need to regret the end of the previous game show, because we have prepared an even more upgraded version of the quiz show. Rao continued to lead, while a conductor in the shape of a terrifying pig slowly revealed itself. After all, what truly touches the heart most deeply is the melody. Specifically, the singing voice and the aura emanating from the conductor spread to where the contestants were. It made them extremely anxious. A choir created such beautiful sounds you are sure to love it, he promised, as he slowly introduced the name of this new segment. The conductor fully revealed itself before everyone's eyes with a massive and ghastly appearance. But Rao still stood calmly in front of it, excitedly shouting, "The third choir!" From the creature's eyes, a streak of dried blood had trailed down, who knows when, and its entire face was covered in scars. Allow me to introduce the guest. That we have invited for this new segment? The conductor of the Hell Choir, and the butcher of filthy, grotesque melodies, yet also full of splendor, and his magnificent equipment is here now. He suddenly paused, looked around, and blurted out, "Please wait a moment," as Rao quickly continued to announce to everyone the conductor's equipment. It is finally arriving. Circular discs attached to wires appeared mysteriously. It wasn't clear what kind of instruments they were. Those circular discs carried a cold color combined with the red lights of the show, creating an extremely gruesome space. On the rims of those discs were carved faces that looked like they were screaming. Everyone below saw those things floating before their eyes. They were terrified who would be the one to join the choir. Let us grant the honor of the first turn to our new faces. Every gaze was now directed by Rao toward Siagon. "Oh, this is your question." The question immediately appeared on the screen, and Rao stood before Siagon waiting for the answer. Among the following creatures: which creature has the longest lifespan? 1 a pig, 2 a human, 3 a rabbit, 4 a flea. She told herself that as long as she answered correctly, there would be no problem. Right. That's how the third game show worked, isn't it? Inside, she was trying hard, but on the outside, she was sweating, her voice trembling with fear as she slowly blurted out, "Human? Number 2 is human." Siagon heard Rao's announcement and felt relieved. "Correct, congratulations, you have passed." Suddenly, a head detached from Siagon's neck, blood spraying everywhere, and the body slowly slumped over. Information about this event began to appear in his mind. Sanum, the conductor of sacrifice, consists of a single conductor and 13 silver trays that he summons. Siagon's head flew onto one of the circular discs, while Rao continued to host. Finally, he announced loudly, "The first member of the choir is in position." The singer's head, with a terrified expression, the lower part dripping with blood, had settled neatly onto the disc. Human? It's human. Sonam understood the format of the show perfectly. The heads of the talk show participants would be placed on silver trays, and the selection method would be decided by that day's broadcast. The heads that had merged with the silver trays would emit different words and musical sounds, creating an a cappella performance. The maximum number of heads recorded is 7. He understood well the influence of the first head. 1 head causes mild headaches, anxiety, and sudden mood swings. Sahi saw the gruesome scene that just happened and screamed in pain. The conductor's voice kept muttering, "Human." She looked at the head, which still had a screaming expression, and shrieked, "Kion!" Her eyes bulged, tears and snot streaming down. "Chion." The conductor continued to repeat, "Number 2 is human." A flame erupted again, as if it had consumed her, while Rao still nonchalantly announced, "Now next up will be—" Jimin jumped in fear as he felt his turn approaching. "Are you ready?" He resolutely told himself that he would rather suffer the punishment than end up like that. He frantically screamed his refusal to answer, "I don't know. I don't know the answer." A beautiful flame along with radiant flowers appeared, consuming him. His head, without hesitation, oh my, eliminated. The atmosphere had become extremely tense after seeing how miserable the others were. "What a pity you could not participate in the magnificent choir." The camera panned to the spot covered in blood, and Rao sighed with regret. Only 5 minutes had been recorded, and a whole team had disappeared. Sonam showed clear anxiety on his face, but in his mind he was still clear-headed enough to analyze the problem. The punishment system had vanished, and answering the question wrong meant being eliminated immediately. But answering correctly meant your head would be completely severed and you would fall into a ghost story. Class A, in the form of an evil spirit. The image in his mind seemed to blur and glitch, and then he suddenly remembered something he had ignored for so long. The images of the superiors were gradually fading, and he realized the names of my superiors didn't even appear in the ghost story universe. A smiley face symbol, but in a terrifying red, appeared on Rao's screen. "Now, let's meet the next participants." "That is a familiar face." He gently announced, "It is your turn to answer, Nam." A terrifying thought appeared in Minseok's mind. If I keep answering the questions like this, what if we all die one by one, to be decapitated or burned to death one by one? Right, how could a coward like me ever survive something like this? The heavy rope tightens around my neck. Sooner or later, I'll clench his phone tightly, trying to regain composure. No. And I scream my own name internally, Kim Seon-um. This isn't just fear, it's that overwhelming feeling of witnessing a natural disaster right before your eyes. This is a disaster. Don't forget that Kim Seon-um. You're the one here with the highest chance of survival, the one who read all about these crises. The MC's cheerful voice cuts in, "Well then, Brother Lung, are you ready?" Accompanied by the savage sounds of those severed heads from before. A human? A human? I am a human. Seeing that the man didn't react, Dao tilted his head and called out, "Brother Lung!" Even though his face was drenched in cold sweat, Min Song forced a smile which seemed to satisfy the guy. He replied, "Well, before I answer, could I say a few words?" The MC was more than happy to agree. "Oh, of course." Min Song's words sounded like a final testament. "I have a relative in the hospital. If possible, I'd like someone to look after them after this broadcast ends." Dao's tone was full of mock emotion. "Oh, how touching." He drops smiley face stickers into the water and then asks, "So what is the correct answer?" Just as the tension peaked, Seon-um suddenly raised his hand. "Excuse me, Mr. Host." He couldn't believe he had actually turned around, and Dao asked curiously, "Anho, and is there something you'd like to say?" Seeing the host head toward his new teammate Min Song was a mix of anxiety and hope. "Anho, and what is he planning? It'll be so dangerous if he interrupted the host. He leaned in close to the TV screen and whispered, "I'm sorry, but I'm feeling really dizzy. Can I take a break for a moment?" Seon-um's hand moved slowly, and while the host wasn't looking, he stuck the wet smiley face stickers on him. Dao snapped his fingers. "Oh my, that is quite a bother." A pause symbol appeared on the TV screen. "Cut! We'll take a 30-minute break." He never thought the youngest's suggestion would actually work. Both of them were stunned. He interrupted the host, but he didn't get burned. He actually got away with it. His entire body was soaked in cold sweat, and he let out a silent sigh of relief. It worked. If this had been a live broadcast, I would have died instantly. But the cameras around here were still on. This was a recorded broadcast. The sticker had successfully attached itself to the surface of the TV, a triple smiley face sticker. When placed on a sentient being, it creates a sense of friendliness. Alice's picnic set and canned drinks double the effectiveness of items. It was a gamble to see if it would work on the host. But it seems it wasn't useless. Dao, still clueless, displayed a happy icon and laughed. "I apologize, I have to go change my antenna. And can you lead Anho into the waiting room?" The smiley face icon winked mischievously. "He promised to get me some water. Go on, rest up and drink some water." Even though he was scared out of his wits, Seon-um kept his smile and nodded in response. Just like that, the plan had partially succeeded. Filming would resume in 30 minutes. The timer showed 0.3. "I've bought some time." As he turned to leave, Haje approached and held out her fist. "Now I need to come up with a countermeasure in the waiting room." When she said confirmed, she was all alone. Seon-um understood. The waiting room was in the corner. As soon as he entered, he leaned against the wall, let out a long sigh, and thought wearily, "I bought time, but it's only 30 minutes. Not even enough time to catch my breath. I have to do something. Within this time frame." He opened his palm, and a button lay there. First, the item the deputy manager had secretly given him. Seon-um held it up, examining it. A button that looked like it could be pressed. Is it a switch? Thinking that, he tried pressing both sides of the button with his fingers, and a soft click echoed out. Hearing that sound, Seon-um immediately recognized it. It was the sound of a call connecting. That same sound echoed back from the other side. A deep, calm voice came from the button. "I'm listening." The sturdy back of a man appeared. "This is Lee Cha-hun." Seon-um was surprised and gasped internally. A communication device. On the other end, Cha-hun asked, "Who is this?" That was Deputy Manager Park Sa-han's call button. If this is connected to the deputy's device, Seon-um hurriedly asked, "Are you the team leader of Team D?" Receiving an affirmative reply, Seon-um regained a bit of composure. "I don't have time." He immediately laid out the current situation. As concisely as possible, "I am Kim Seon-um, a new recruit for Team D. I have an urgent report. In exactly 30 minutes, everyone on Team D will be dead." Just say it. Regardless of whether it would be effective or not, there was silence on the other end for a moment. Then a calm voice replied, "I understand. Give me a 5-minute briefing." After Seon-um finished explaining almost everything that happened if things keep going like this. "We're all going to be dead the moment this break ends, and we'll get an answer from that team leader." "I see. Please extend the time by another 30 minutes. When An Ho-yeon said that seemed impossible, Cha-hoon replied, "Then there's nothing more we can do." Hearing that Sunam couldn't help but tremble with fear and a bit of frustration. Why was he being so calm? The lives of the team members were hanging by a thread. Did he think this was some kind of joke? An tried to stay calm and asked if I can buy another 30 minutes. Is there any chance to turn things around? The man replied, "That's right. If we have more than 55 minutes from now, we can requisition weapons and infiltration gear with the security team's authorization, even if we streamline all the procedures. It would still take about 40 minutes. On top of that, it will take another 20 minutes to enter the corresponding shadow zone if we have to complete this process. Only then will it be possible to rescue the team." Sonam's eyes widened in shock. By using special equipment to enter the shadows, he could single-handedly suppress an A-rank anomaly. If that was possible, he was a famous figure. If he was at this level, that would make him quite an important or memorable character. If he really was someone I knew to test my theory, I carefully asked, "May I ask what kind of mask the team leader is wearing?" Many possibilities opened up. In the hall, the conductor was waving his arms, directing the others to sing to melody number 2. "A human, I am a human," I cheerfully called out, "An Ho-yeon." I asked with concern, "Are you feeling all right? Are you ready to create the greatest broadcast ever?" Sonam nodded and replied, "Yes, thank you for your concern." Hearing that he was extremely satisfied and said, "Oh, you've worked so hard," An Ho-yeon thought to himself again. His tone is so friendly. The effect of the smiley face sticker must still be active. The plan is all set. I couldn't hope for anything more. My colleagues seemed to have resigned themselves to their grim fate, but Sonam wouldn't give up. As long as the three of us could get out. A moment later, I calmly spoke up. "Excuse me, MC, there's something I'd like to talk to you about." The host asked curiously, "Oh, so An Ho-yeon, you have something to say to me." While rearranging the plan in his head, Sonam tried to regain his composure. "First, I need to get the host on my side for this plan. I hate having to say things like this, but I have no other choice." My tone was filled with admiration. "Host, your love and dedication to this show is truly incredible." An exclamation mark appeared on the TV screen. "Are you talking about me?" Using my experience working for capitalists, Sonam put on a standard smile and poured out flattering compliments about the visuals, the stage balance of trendy and luxurious, the color tones, and the style, which all followed a clear and consistent concept. As for the host, this was a variety show with a narrative that changed in real time. Based on the audience's reactions combined with your engaging commentary, you've created a show. People can't look away from your delivery as smooth as flowing water. It always made me praise myself inwardly. My flattery truly has no limits when facing death. The host burst into a radiant smile. He was truly satisfied and replied to the praise warmly, "I'm so embarrassed I don't know what to do. Broadcasting is something we all create together. You're a part of that too, you know." An Ho-yeon heard this. Sonam just gave a bitter smile and said, "Thank you, sir." But inside he was refuting it. "Actually, that's not what I meant." Finally, I got to the main point because I truly love your show. It's such a pity that it changes so drastically on its own. This was the direction I needed to aim for. Using my knowledge, Sonam offered comments. "The presence of live music has been significantly reduced. The punishments are gone too, and you're even using pre-recorded applause instead of actual audience reactions. It no longer feels like the talk show I used to know." I remembered the moment I looked around the waiting room, which was the host's private space. The walls were covered with talk show posters from live broadcasts when interacting directly with the audience, so it felt like the whole show had been remade to cut costs. "So is the reason for this comprehensive change?" Sonam pointed toward the pig-headed person. "Because of that guest." It was highly likely that the host didn't like this current format at all. A buzzing sound of electricity rang out. He only said one thing, "That is not a matter for a participant to be concerned about," which left me feeling quite awkward. "I apologize." I turned my head aside. Sonam gave a forced smile and blurted out a long explanation. "Honestly, I'm a huge fan of the Tuesday quiz show. I've been looking forward to appearing on this show for a long, long time. I think that my disappointment when it was canceled made me blurt out things I shouldn't have," Joe said with a smile. "Oh, hearing that, I truly appreciate it." Placing his hand on the edge of the TV, he said, "However, the entertainment industry is ruthless. If the viewers prefer this format, then recognizing that and adapting quickly is also part of being an entertainer." Sonam turned, placed a hand on his chest, and said sincerely, "But I preferred your previous show, sir," referring to the host. The Tuesday quiz show interacted with every single audience member in real time and brought us stories that felt truly vivid, at least to me as a viewer. I liked the old version much better. Your acting technique is truly top tier, he added. Never mind that. I just got caught up in the live broadcast a moment ago and let my personal feelings get the better of me. The TV screen flickered with heavy static, followed by a loud noise announcing Joe. Back to normal. There are only 60 seconds left until we resume recording. Everyone get back to your positions. He counted down the time. 10, I'm already prepared. 9, 8, bay. The heads remained intact on the plates. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. A board displaying the number 100 appeared, and the show continued. The memory of the previous conversation surfaced. By the way, what kind of animal is your mask? The team leader on the other side replied, a lizard. A spotlight shone directly onto Min-sung, then the host's excited voice rang out. And now, Mr. Badger, it is finally time for your answer. His eyes drooped and the corners of his mouth lifted into a sad smile. At that exact moment, Sunum whispered to grab the other person's attention. Assistant director, you know very well. The assistant director was probably about to say, I don't know, because the horrific sight from just before appeared being burned to a crisp is still better than becoming a musical instrument, a human reduced to a head repeating the same words forever. But he firmly said, give the right answer. Min-sung panicked, his eyes widening. It was still too early to give up. Joe continued to pressure him. Mr. Badger, I'll give you 3 seconds. He looked like he was struggling with his own thoughts. Finally, he gave the correct answer. Number 4, a burn. He happily shouted, Mr. Badger, exactly, and turned to the conductor. Now quickly take him to the choir. What glory. A small piece of paper appeared and Sunum's previous words surfaced. Do you mean, if I use the team leader's special equipment, I can reach inside the ghost story, Cha-hun confirmed. That's right, but there's still a drawback. However, the portal created by this equipment can only send small objects through. He nodded and added, that's enough, and instead, use all your strength and throw it as hard as you can. A blinding flash of light appeared between those two distances. Something shot past the conductor with terrifying force. It gradually collided with another object and fell. It was a TNZIBL orb. Sunum's eyes narrowed, just as I thought. I had a hunch it would work if it's a TN orb, and a lizard is. Even if you're trapped inside a ghost story, physical exorcism still works. Role field agent. Nickname, Lizard. Former position team leader. One of the few combat specialists in the field investigation team, often recorded in the archives as a figure who uses raw muscle power to overcome ghost stories, which usually require intelligence and creativity. Not brains. Are you suffering because your body lacks a brain? Of course, it might not be effective if we attack the commander directly, but what we're aiming for is the commander's instrument. If a Class A Ghost Stories commander is stopped, then even the host won't be able to continue. If I could disrupt the flow of the program even for a single moment. The host happily repeated, Now then, Commander, please turn our correct answer giver, Mr. Badger, into a member of the choir. But seeing the brute not responding, he had to call out repeatedly, Commander! The contestants and the audience are waiting, but the conductor just craned its neck up, Commander. At that very moment, that thing was ripped apart, and a savage sound of breaking bones echoed across the stage. From the conductor's torn maw, streams of bright red liquid and black mist erupted. Witnessing this terrifying scene, Sunum tensed up his spirit, feeling as if it had suffered a huge shock. The others were trembling in fear, and Joe was shaking from the fury of Joe. What the hell are you doing? He was no longer maintaining his politeness. What do you think you're doing, huh? Tearing everything apart. It's rising up, it's rising up. I've done a truly terrible, unreasonable thing. I have sinned. Do you see it? I am singing a wrong verdict. Whispers echoed. This is hell. This is hell. This is hell. Blood splattered onto the TV screen. There was no one left. Joe's hand was raised. You have no respect for this show. With just a snap of his fingers, the conductor was consumed by the scorching flames. Sunum's words echoed in his mind. Just as I thought entertainment should never depend on the guests. It must always stay true to its core values. The excitement of witnessing joy, the thrill of being connected, the suspense of not knowing what comes next. The anticipation for the next moment. You producers understand nothing of that. You don't deserve to create any show at all. Dao stood before the flames and made his declaration. Sunum's eyes were fixed on that MC. But wait, the spotlight hit Dao. The talented host, I can do this. Something was wrong. The host was supposed to be just a D rank, yet he had just incinerated an A rank ghost story. A pristine white handkerchief was offered. This wasn't in my plan, Dao's voice rang out. Anhuan! He gently wiped the blood from his nose on his handsome face. Thank you. Because of you, I've found a new vision. You have the talent of a creator. From now on, I want to see you more often. When the next broadcast is ready, I will certainly invite you. But the scenery around them shifted. The D-rank team had returned to the office. Everyone looked at each other bewildered. We made it. We're alive. Two of them happily hugged the youngest member of the group. Kid, you're amazing. That was truly insane. His hand tightly gripped the glass vial. I'm alive. I made it out. Hache was startled and blurted out, On your collection. The golden light. It's an A rank. He stared at it, stunned. You conquered an A-rank shadow after just 2 days of joining. The next day after Kim Sun survived 2 days of grueling work and was completely exhausted. What were his fellow rookies doing? On the computer screen, a line of text appeared. Hello, employee Go Dong-un. Rong-un broke into a sweat, squinting as he thought to himself, cleared 2 E-rank shadows and got 66 points in just 3 days. This result, it's probably decent for a rookie, right? They say an average rookie only clears 1 or 2 per week. He was trying his best to adapt to this company. This madness, even though the seniors were assigned to the A-team. They aren't exactly friendly, she thought, sitting in front of the computer screen and letting out a sigh. But at least they aren't too strict about hazing the new kids. Rong-un, with a worried expression, silently encouraged himself. The points needed to trade for a wish ticket are a massive number, up to 500,000 points. It might take a whole lifetime to save that much, but I will do it. Then she curiously wondered to herself if the other rookies felt the same way. As soon as she looked at the group chat on her phone, Dong-un was startled. That reminds me. The thought immediately popped up. We should invite brother Sun too. Maybe I should contact him through the internal company messenger. Suddenly, a notification sound went off, surprising her. Messages kept popping up in the group chat one after another. The members in the group chat were discussing it very excitedly. Has everyone seen the announcement just posted? Does anyone here know the employee Kim Sun? What does it mean to help clear an A-rank shadow? Wait, do you mean that strange guy wearing the horn mask? After reading it, Dong-un couldn't help but feel overwhelmed. Then she gasped in astonishment. On the calendar, someone had marked the 5th with a sticker, a flame icon. The moment Sun, Min-song, and Ha-cheon appeared, just then Min-song's voice rang out, An-hwan, you are truly. Everyone is gossiping that you should be promoted to assistant manager immediately. Sun, who was drinking a recovery potion, was startled by the news. Then he narrowed his eyes and smirked. But I heard other departments have objected, because this has absolutely no precedent. Hearing that, he hesitated and replied, yes, while silently breathing a sigh of relief. Thank goodness they objected. After escaping the TV game show, they were transferred to the medical bay and given emergency medication. Blood flowed from their eyes, ears, nose, and mouths. Sun. At the same time, told himself, anyway, at least we're still alive. Min-song put the bag of food on the table and said with relief, honestly, I really thought I was going to die. Next, he blushed and exclaimed, being alive is truly wonderful. Thank you. Anhuan Min-song said enthusiastically, I'm treating you to thank you, so eat to your heart's content. He looked at the pastries laid out in front of him and immediately refused. No, thank you. At that same moment, Sun confided in his heart, honestly, the explorer's notebook. The shadow did all the work. Then Ha-che, with an unhappy expression, tightly crumpled the paper in his hand. It's not that we are useless seniors, but because it was marked as a D rank. We let our guard down. Hearing that, he calmly reminded her manager. That excuse sounds pretty pathetic. With killing intent radiating around her, she declared sternly, then I will prove it in the next shadow zone. Sun, looking exhausted, silently prayed. I wish there were no more shadow regions after this, honestly. Suddenly, Ha-che, curious and confused, chimed in. But this incident is completely unprecedented. Has it even been reported to senior management yet? What do you think? At the same time, Min-song offered, could you get me a glass of water, please? Min-song sat across from me and answered honestly, I've already asked around, but it seems like nobody knows anything. She took a sip of water, squinted her eyes, and remarked, Honestly, I wish our team leader would push harder on this issue. But he's just not that kind of person. Hearing this, Sunam offered a suggestion. Then why don't you promote yourself and do it yourself? Hache sighed wearily. I'll quit my job before that happens. Sunam nodded in agreement. Deep down, I wished I could do that too. Suddenly, a notification sound erupted from my phone. It startled her and she glanced over. Then Hache announced, the team leader's meeting just finished. He's heading over here now. Upon hearing that, I was surprised, thinking to myself, finally I'm about to actually see his face. Manager Lee Cha-hun, one of the most famous figures in the Dreaming in Broad Daylight Shadow Exploration Handbook, the one responsible for the legendary carry during the third TV show, also known as Lizard. At that same moment, the door suddenly swung open. Min Song saw this and jumped to her feet. Team leader, you're back. Sunam, sitting next to me, stood up slowly in surprise. I felt a bit of anticipation, thinking, so the real identity of Lizard is Cha-hun. With the lizard head, he spoke, hello. Seeing this, Sunam looked utterly disappointed. It's an actual lizard. While I was still reeling, he excitedly announced, the rookie happens to be here waiting too. Sunam was sweating bullets, his face turning pale as he thought to himself, there's no way a human can actually be a lizard. I must be having a mental breakdown because of that TV-headed MC. My brain must be mistaking his mask for a lizard's head. The mask. My gaze was immediately drawn to the mask. It was hanging from his belt. Sunam was drenched in sweat, thinking, it's hanging right there on his waist. Just then, Hache introduced, An Hwan, this is Manager Lee Cha-hun. Go ahead and introduce yourself. With a bewildered expression, I wondered to myself, why is everyone so calm? When his head is clearly that of a lizard. But then Hache smugly offered her own guess. Looks like An Hwan is just shocked by the manager's good looks. He doesn't even look like he's from the same species as us. I frantically screamed in my head, someone, please tell me this is just a joke. Suddenly Cha-hun called out, making Sunam jump. An Hwan! Cha-hun, with a deep voice and narrowing eyes, asked, can you see me? That sharp gaze felt like it was trying to peer into my very soul. I stammered a nod. Yes. Next, Sunam used every bit of his emergency improv skills to explain. My eyes aren't hurt, and my vision is perfectly normal. I only saw Cha-hun staring at me with blood-red pupils, and then Cha-hun clasped his hands behind his back. I see. My heart rate began to slow down. I exhaled, thinking, good, that sounded natural. Control your expression. Control your expression. Next, Sunam fearfully reminded himself, judging by the atmosphere, it seems everyone else is seeing a perfectly normal human head. I don't know why he looks like a reptile only to me, but I can't let it show. At the same time, Cha-hun said in a serious tone, now let's get to the main point. I will explain the conclusions regarding this incident. First, the trigger for this incident. The intrusion of another team. A question immediately popped into my head. How on earth did they end up in the same ghost story? Next, Cha-hun revealed in a low voice. I heard that the third TV show was allocated twice due to an administrator error. Din Din tapped his head once while winking in self-reproach. Well, no wonder everything felt so rushed. Team D had started writing their blueprints around the same time, but they stepped out halfway through, creating a time gap of about 50 minutes. Cha-hun then posed a question. Did they stop halfway to go get coffee for the rookie or something? That team is famously unnaturally considerate of their members. Because of the lack of another group to cross-verify the event, and the relatively high initial survival rate of 43%, it couldn't be convincingly proven that the Shadow region deserved to be classified as A rank. And then Cha-hun confirmed, therefore the request to reclassify the third TV show to A rank has been denied. Hache and Min Song gasped in unison, what? Then the two took turns questioning. Are you joking? Are you kidding me? The entire squad was wiped out after all. The collector of Ranka Dream Essence is here, right? Cha-hun shrugged, explaining that they claimed it was still possible to extract higher rank essence from lower rank shadow zones in certain special cases. Dang Dang nonchalantly brushed off the responsibility, saying, who knows? While Ding Ding cheerfully chimed in, just let us know once you're sure. Hearing this, she turned away angrily toward the door. Fine, now I'm actually annoyed. I'll have to go talk to them myself. Seeing this, he hurriedly stopped her. Manager, wait a second. Min Song, while pulling back the furious Hache, turned around and asked, they already collected all the rank A essence, didn't they? Is this really going to be the end? Like a rank D achievement? Cha-hun immediately denied it no. Then Cha-hun continued, considering the unique circumstances and the reality of this expedition, It's equivalent to a rank A campaign, so a separate compensation has been approved. Sun Woo narrowed his eyes, thinking to himself, in other words, take this and stop complaining. Cha Hun didn't stop there, explaining, specifically for the third TV game, a one-time bonus equivalent to completing a rank A mission will be awarded. Each participant will receive 30,000 points. Min Song and the others froze in shock, and Cha Hun continued, and for Kim Sun Woo, who contributed the most to the completion, an additional 10,000 points will be awarded, totaling 40,000 points. Min Song couldn't contain her excitement and cheered, 30,000 points. Hache whistled happily next to her. I can actually hear my sentence being shortened by 3 years already. But then she became a bit sad and lowered her voice. But these points aren't transferable. This is awkward, isn't it? An Huang wiped his sweat, nodding. Really, though. You pretty much did everything by yourself. Hearing this, he hurriedly reassured them. No, it's okay, really. Later, Sun Woo thought to himself, actually, not having an official rank. A completion record is better. Getting promoted too fast would only get me assigned to even crazier, spookier tales. Even more horrific ones at that. Never forget the warning, this is a world where you could die at any moment. His train of thought continued. And as for the points the others received, honestly, even if they were transferable, I don't think they'd give them to me. Min Song smiled expectantly and urged him, An Huang, check your points right now. They were people who accepted dangerous jobs with constant casualties just to save up for a wish ticket. Naturally, they all had their own goals. She narrowed her eyes at him. I showed you how to register your points last time, didn't I? Then Sun Woo confirmed in his head, in this place, points are practically life itself. When they saw the 40,100 on the screen, they immediately got excited. It actually transferred. He stood there blankly thinking, a rank E completion was only worth 100 points, and unlike before, this is a 5-digit number not split among the team members. I just completed 8% of the wish ticket requirement in one go. He saw her and him exchange meaningful glances. Afterward, Hache looked over at Cha Hun, who looked confused. Then she spoke up. Well, since we all survived and earned a massive amount of points, Hotch raised an eyebrow while holding the glowing card. Let's go do that, shall we? Ding, ding, and dang, dang, said in unison. Behold the magic of Daydream Corporation's technology. On the screen was information about a new product. It was a field expedition first aid kit. This reagent, called Energy Booster in horror tales, was a basic recovery drug used after sustaining an injury. It tasted like cough syrup, but at the partner cafe it tasted like cherry water. Inside the eatery, warm yellow light spilled through the windows. Sun Woo turned and offered, let me grill for you guys. Min Song next to him spoke up. Hey, who lets the rookie handle the tongs at the team's first celebration? You're going to have to work hard later on. So today, just relax and eat. He felt a bit uncomfortable, but whispered to himself, it's not like I'm trying to be polite. Sun Woo looked at Cha Hun's lizard-like appearance and shrieked in his heart. I just need to find somewhere else to look. But then he thought, at least this confirms that the others can't see that lizard face. Sun Woo took a sip of alcohol, closed his eyes, and thought, the atmosphere of the party tonight isn't too bad. A little alcohol helps relieve the tension, too. Then he confided what had been on his mind lately. My business dinners are always just about buttering up clients. How long has it been since I've had a meal as peaceful as this? Suddenly a voice rang out, startling him. Seonum looked up and replied, Yes, sir. Chae-hun narrowed his eyes slightly and probed, Aren't you planning to use the 40,000 points you earned this time? He was momentarily taken aback, then immediately replied, Right, I'm saving the points to buy a wish ticket. Ha-che chuckled. What kind of rookie uses a meat-grilling tong at their first company dinner? Min Seong, sitting across from them, broke into a cold sweat and gave a stiff smile. Senior. Meanwhile, Chae-hun just nodded. I see. The conversation seemed to have hit a dead end. Seonum thought for a moment before asking, Do you have any recommendations on how to spend these points? Chae-hun said in a low voice, I do. He felt exhausted, thinking, It feels like I just unlocked a lizard's control panel. At that same moment, text appeared. To receive the answer from the lizard, please enter the command. Seonum narrowed his eyes, wondering what would be the best thing to use them for. Across from him, Chae-hun remained silent. Then Chae-hun spoke up. Custom equipment. Seonum narrowed his eyes, thinking to himself, I never expected that to be mentioned here. One of the main features of being an employee at Daydream Corporation is having exclusive equipment. Even if you get caught up in ghost stories, you still have to keep working. Comic by Kazuto Studio. Songni-ung original story by Bedokso. As everyone knows, this company throws its employees into horrific ghost stories just to harvest medicinal herbs from them. This raises a question in high-level ghost stories. Wouldn't everyone just die, leaving you with no medicinal herbs to harvest at all? The solution to that problem is this setup. The higher your rank, the more powerful the exclusive equipment you possess. And that is custom exclusive equipment. Of course, this equipment doesn't grant you power, on par with the entities in the ghost stories. Think of it as a slight boost to your special stats. But because this equipment is purely for exploring ghost stories, the details are quite vague. He only knew part of the setup. As they walked, Min Seong happily revealed, "This is it. This is the annex building right next to the main office. This is where we quarantine and store ghost stories that are relatively safe and useful. For example, do you remember the radio? The radio in our office. That ghost story predicts your luck for the day. This is where we have carefully selected useful ghost stories like that." Right then, Hachi turned back and continued. The company calls them Twilight Class. Officially, they are classified as E-Class ghost stories, but some are more useful and stronger than D-Class, or less dangerous than E-Class, so they have their own special label. Chae-hun said in a low voice, "Custom equipment can also be crafted through certain abysses of darkness." Twilight Class owned by the company, that's right. They craft it using a ghost story. Shanum listened, lost in thought. As I recall, the Twilight Class ghost stories the field investigation team uses, and to craft equipment are the Toy Maker in the Lab, E7 Bow, the Benevolent Seed, E99. They perform this ritual. D something E404, I don't know which one I'll be using. Seonum watched Chae-hun and Hache's backs surprised, thinking, there he is. Seeing Min Seong beside him looking excited, he felt a bit curious. Seon looked at the person with their face completely covered and wondered to himself, is that even an employee? At the same time, the person stepped forward and smiled. We are the team from the Field Investigation Division here to train a rookie. We'd like to request access to the Abyss of Darkness. Twilight Class number 99. The mysterious person didn't answer but gave a slight nod. Just then, a loud noise echoed from the door nearby. The person's annoyed expression was reflected on their glasses. Ahead lay a long corridor that seemed to have no end. They approached a door and a voice spoke, "We've arrived." The sound of the iron door slowly opening echoed through the space. Seon stood there with a blank expression, curious, wondering to himself, this is it. Before them was a machine called the Benevolent Seed. Min Seong narrowed his eyes and explained happily, "Our department practically has exclusive rights to use this Abyss of Darkness." Hache, standing next to them, glanced back. "If you put 2 items in it, we'll mix them to create a new one." Seon curiously asked, "Do you need points to use this?" He nodded immediately. "That's right. The Twilight Class Abysses of Darkness stored in this annex all require a fee to activate." Then Min Seong spoke up, "For this one, the cost is 1,000 points per use." Seon was startled by the price. He hesitated and asked, "If it's equipment necessary for exploring ghost stories, shouldn't the company cover that cost?" Min Seong answered nonchalantly, "Once you get promoted to assistant manager, you can use it for free twice a year. Most people just wait until they get promoted. Anyway, you'll be promoted to assistant manager in a year at most." Seon wavered, wondering, should I try hard to get promoted? Then he curiously asked, "So what do you want to do?" He remained silent, thinking, it hurts like hell to burn 1,000 points just like that. But Manager Lee definitely had a reason for calling it useful. If an employee with a high survival rate offers special advice, following that advice to increase my survival rate during the initial stages is the right decision. Seon narrowed his eyes and made his choice. "I'll try it right now." And then Min Seong happily added, "Good, just like the deputy manager said earlier. If you drop 2 items into this shadow abyss, it will create a new item that combines their properties, so ideally the materials you use should have some kind of handy special ability. Don't worry, your items won't be gone forever." Son, nodded in agreement, thinking to himself, "I've already read all about this in the exploration diary." He raised an eyebrow, reminding him, "Even if you don't have any top-tier materials right now, don't worry. It's our tradition for everyone to lend you gear to help you out. Craft your first piece of equipment, or you can pay a fee to rent someone else's." Suddenly, he looked toward Shahoon and made a small request, also team leader. Your equipment is clearly the best among us. Would you mind letting us see it? Shahoon said nothing, gently reaching into his coat to take out his gear, then calmly explained a butter knife. If I use this to cut the medium, leading into the shadow abyss. It slices through space and allows me to transfer small objects through it. Son, narrowed his eyes at the sharp blade, realizing, so that's how he threw that coin to me during the third TV show? Son thought to himself. If only it were defensive gear, that would be great, but I don't think it is. Next, he curiously asked, what about you two? Minseong scratched his cheek and blushed, smiling. Mine helps me perform a few parlor tricks. Ha-jae raised an eyebrow. That's the button I saw in the TV show. Seeing their gear, Sunum thought to himself, so neither of them has defensive equipment either. And perhaps I can find something similar to those two. At the alien shop in that case, he said in a serious tone, I'd like to borrow the team leader's equipment. Chahoon's butter knife was placed on top of the Seed of Kindness set. Sonam watched it intently, not looking away for even a second. And then Ha-jae spoke up. Now you just need to choose the items you want to put in here. But then she warned him sternly, just absolutely never put a real plant in. The sensors at the door will filter them out anyway. But it's better to be careful. Hearing this, Sonam thought to himself, come to think of it, all the weeds around here are plastic. He frowned with a gloomy face, suddenly realizing, I remember now, in the Shadow Abyss Exploration Diary, in the ghost story about the Seed of Kindness set, it read, Staff member A plucked a weed growing near the Shadow Abyss, which was believed to be a dandelion, and put it into the device twice. The result was hidden. Something was hidden, and it lunged out with a terrifying shriek. It took security forces 7 days to finally contain it. All 3 people at the scene, including staff member A, were confirmed dead. All vegetation was destroyed. Note repeat offenders will be disciplined and fired. That's right, that's exactly the diary. Shahoon walked over slowly. In the remaining slot, we usually put in convenient daily items, but the supernatural properties might only be passed on faintly. Or not passed on at all, I accept that risk. And at the same time, Sunum reached into his pocket to rummage for something. I had been silently reviewing my entire inventory ever since we stepped in here. The thought crossed his mind. I'm carrying quite a few supernatural items on me, like the I'm so happy smile sticker. The highest ranked item among them would be Sunum. Took out a silver coin bought from the Cosmic Mall and affirmed I want to use this. Chahoon looked curious. And what is that? He clenched the coin in his hand and smiled. Just a souvenir from a trip. I just have a good feeling about it. Ha-jae looked at it and nodded. It's easy to carry, too. Looks sturdy enough. Sonam was sweating nervously, wondering, will the lizard notice it's an item? But come to think of it, this world is full of ghost stories. Carrying 1 or 2 small supernatural items isn't a big deal. I'll just say I don't know what it is. After he inserted this coin, a red light from the Seed of Kindness set appeared, and a warning message popped up. Inserting hands is strictly prohibited. Please provide the caretaker's information. Sonam thought to himself. So that's why it's called self-made equipment. It's like asking someone to take care of a plant. It scans the owner's genetic information. After a while, it finished scanning, combining data, moving, creating toolset. A blue light emitted from the Seed of Kindness set, making Sunum instinctively blink one eye. The completion notification sound rang out. At the same time, Chahoon spoke softly. Congratulations on your first piece of self-made equipment. Ha-jae looked at Sunum and warned him sternly. Once you get home, remember to test out your new weapon. It's easy to forget, but we're still in a ghost story right now. Afterward, she tilted her head and smiled. You worked hard today, rookie. You must be exhausted. Go get some rest. See you tomorrow. The scene shifted. The sound of the door closing echoed. He sat down in a chair, reached into his pocket, and replied in a low voice, Yes, thank you. 2 items were used in the synthesis process, the genes of the seed set. One was the lizard manager's butter knife, and the other was the silver coin bought from the alien shop. Used as the parent items, the self-crafted weapon created by combining those two is... Sonam looked at the weapon in his hand then. Sionum furrowed his brow, wondering about this thing in his head. How on earth am I supposed to use this? Could it be that the gotcha failed and spit out a toy coin or something? He flipped the coin over, squinting as he thought, I knew it. Then calmly tossed it into the air. If it is a coin, maybe it works like this. He watched the weaponized coin spin in midair, and just then, an invisible hand emerged from one side of it, reaching out toward him. Seonum witnessed the bizarre scene breaking into a sweat as he wondered to himself, "What the hell is this?" The hand wrote a message in the air. Startled, he muttered to himself, Insert coins. Would a 101 coin work? At that same moment, a notification popped up. Donation of 101 received from Kim Seon-um. The hand contemptuously flicked the coin away, leaving Seon-um to sigh to himself. That didn't work. Moving on, he said, then let's try a 501 coin. The hand happily snatched it up. Seeing that he immediately realized, so it depends on the denomination. The hand suddenly lunged, making Seon-um sweat and jump back in surprise. It gently placed itself onto his left hand. Seon-um stared, dazed, thinking, it sank into my hand and merged with it. He then looked at this black shape on the floor and hesitated, thinking, and this strange feeling too. At that moment, Seon-um slightly moved his hand, and the black hand on the ground moved along with it. He watched this strange spectacle in awe. He stood there blankly for a moment, then pursed his lips, looking down while thinking, is this the ability of this custom-made gear? It moves with my hand. I guess I could call it a third hand. The image of a pen busily writing appeared before his eyes, showing him sitting from afar. Mimicking the hand motions of writing, Seon-um set the pen down and asked himself, the strength and precision are almost identical to my real hand. I wonder if I can actually use this to write. A series of thoughts then raced through his mind, opening and closing doors, even using force to pry open lids. The effective range seems to be about 3 meters. I could even turn off the lights without getting out of bed. He looked at the black hand and softly said, the duration seems to be about 5 seconds. Seon-um then pondered, it's different from the lizard manager's butter knife. It transcends the spatial boundary between reality and the shadows, but in return it seems much easier to use. In ghost stories, at least, I won't have to touch suspicious objects with my bare hands anymore. He triumphantly affirmed to himself, this gotcha was a success. Seon-um leaned back onto his bed, reminding himself, if 501 gets me 5 seconds of telekinesis, that's a pretty good deal. I better work hard to make those 1,000 points I invested worth it. In a daze, he continued his train of thought. My physical condition is surprisingly good. Maybe it's because everything ended smoothly. At the very least, I was lucky to be surrounded by good people. Senior Baekmin Song who didn't do anything reckless, even when facing certain death. Assistant manager Yoon Ha-chae who trusted a rookie and lent me her gear at the critical moment. If not for her trust, I never would have received help from manager Lee Cha-hun. I don't know how many more ghost stories I'll have to overcome in the future. But strangely enough, I feel like I can actually handle this. Seon-um closed his eyes and whispered to himself, maybe I'll just keep enduring this. Regardless, that was just what I used to think. The scene shifts to the next morning. Ha-chae, holding a cup of coffee, breaks into a cold sweat and says, Rookie, it looks like our assignment is about to change. He looked slightly dazed, not understanding what was happening. Pardon? On the computer screen, Ding Ding and Dang Dang were taking turns sending happy smiling stickers. Change of assignment usually refers to a change in responsibilities. Dao, or departments in the company. That's what starts to happen when your years of service reach the annual limit. In other words, Seon-um, sweating profusely and pale-faced, reminded himself, I don't think this is something you should tell me on my 3rd day of work. She sat opposite him, frowning and replying in her head, I know that kid. Then Ha-chae asked, have you seen the official announcement? It was just posted today. He wondered blankly to himself, an official announcement. Let's go. 43 is the ID code for the 3rd game show. To put it simply, Dong Dong held up 2 thumbs happily. One team successfully resolved the special incident and snatched an A rank. Whoa, that's an impressive achievement. We are rewarding that team with 100,000 points. Ding Ding excitedly continued. See that, huh? You guys can do it too. So just throw yourselves into the jaws of death like moths to a flame. Just dive headfirst into those ghost stories and earn your points. If you want a wish ticket, learn from that team. Off you go. Staring at the message on his phone, Sun felt his heart sink, and he screamed in his head. This is insane. He broke into a cold sweat, furrowing his brow, thinking to himself that they had just revealed his identity to everyone. If the mission change was caused by this notification, then what kind of work could this possibly be? Ha-chae, with a sour look on his face, scowled and demanded, Do you see it now? I'm asking you, have you seen it yet? He hesitated, then replied, Yeah, I have. Then Seon-um cautiously asked, So you're saying the change in our assignment means we're transferring departments? The whole team is being transferred. came the reply. Min-sung slumped against the wall in despair while she sighed wearily. It's not exactly a new assignment. Ha-che narrowed her eyes and took a big gulp of coffee, adding, Our workload is just changing a little. Just a little. She then spoke up, Until now, we've mostly been entering ghost stories that already had complete strategy guides. Ha-che ripped the paper in her hand and squinted, declaring, The abysses we're about to enter from now on won't have any guidebooks. She added in a serious tone, which meant they were being pushed into entirely new ghost stories with absolutely no information. He just sat there silently watching the paper scraps fall, saying nothing. Ha-che didn't stop continuing to grumble. Honestly, it's ridiculous. The better you are at something, the more they pile work on you. It's all decisions made by desk jockeys just typing away in their offices. At that moment, footsteps approached. Cha-hun walked in and said hello. Seeing him, she immediately shouted, Boss, have you seen the notice? They're making us enter abysses without any guidebooks. Is that any different from telling us to just go die? Cha-hun tilted his head, looking puzzled. No? Hearing that, the two of them questioned in their minds, What is there really some kind of loophole? Suddenly, Cha-hun's voice dropped. People die even in ghost stories that have full strategy guides, don't they? Hearing that, they asked themselves, depressed, Is that so? Then he cautiously asked, But isn't it still more dangerous without a guidebook? Cha-hun shrugged and replied, I don't see much difference. Sunum thought to himself, This is exactly why employees who sweep through ghost stories with sheer power just ask questions directly. Next he squinted and asked, Is there any benefit to this change in assignment? Cha-hun nodded immediately. Yes, you'll get bonus points. Min-sung and Ha-che lifted their heads at that, and he quickly rushed over asking, Is it a lot, boss? Cha-hun nodded casually. A lot. He then revealed, Compared to an abyss of the same rank, it's worth 3 to 4 times more. The maximum multiplier can reach up to 15 times. With their eyes glazed over by the astronomical points, the two began to chatter. 15 times, really? Even if it's an F rank, if you multiply that by 15. Sunum watched their behavior, feeling helpless, and thought. Their eyes looked like those of gambling addicts. Should I stop them? But then he frowned, analyzing in his head. Wait a minute. Calling it gambling to me, this is a sure win bet. Because even without a guidebook, I have the exploration records in my encyclopedia. In that case, isn't this basically a triple-point event? Ha-che took the lead, signaling seriously, Let's go. A thought crossed their minds simultaneously. Time to earn points. The number 17 appeared on the screen. She announced, First, we're going up to the 17th floor. Floors 17 through 20 are mainly used by the development headquarters. The 17th floor is where researchers look for new abysses. One of them saw them coming and gasped in surprise, then looked at Sunum and asked curiously, Is this the famous rookie everyone's been talking about? Sunum acted calm on the outside, but was crying tears of joy on the inside. I'm finally being treated like a celebrity. He didn't know why, but he felt a sense of... He saw the man extend his hand. He hesitated, thinking, This mission won't be easy either. He saw Che-kan smiling right in front of him. Che-kan, with a smile on his face, reached out toward Sunum. He wondered, probing with his gaze, Who is this? The man didn't say anything, but kept a hospitable smile on his face. Then Che-kan happily introduced himself. I'm Kwak Che-kan from the First Research Team. Nice to meet you. Sunum broke into a light sweat, thinking, Kwak Che-kan. Sonam responded on the outside. Yes, nice to meet you too. I'm Kim Sonam. The man was surprised that he took his hand and exclaimed, You're very polite, aren't you? After Che-kan left Ha-che. Scornfully whispered to Sunum, Don't let him scare you, he's just a regular manager. Sunum was confused, wondering, But aren't you an assistant manager too? Next he frowned slightly, thinking, No. What surprises me is not that this person is a manager. Suddenly the man turned back, caught his eye, and smiled. Sunum continued his train of thought. But because another big-name character has appeared, then Che-kan waved happily, a rare case described as genuinely cheerful and sociable among the staff, even though it was real. He watched that retreating figure and whispered, For now, I'll pretend I don't know anything. Che-kan turned back with a bright expression, laughing, We'll be seeing each other often from now on. Well, Manager Lee Cha-hun. While he looked confused, Cha-hun replied, Yes. Suddenly words appeared. To receive an answer from the lizard, please enter a command. At the same time, Sunum curiously asked, Could you tell us the reason? Cha-hun replied casually, Sure I can. Cha-hun calmly replied, Sure, why not? He gave a puzzled look, so Cha-hyun lowered his voice to explain, "This is the research team. We study ways to enter new dark anomalies, and exploring those new dark anomalies is the primary mission of the expedition team. Once the expedition team completes their task of exploring a new darkness and reporting back, a guide will be created based on that information." Hearing this, Sun-woo pursed his lips and thought to himself, "In other words, this is the team that dumps all the work on us." Chae-kan chimed in cheerfully. "All right then. Welcome to the expedition team members. And to the research team, everyone go ahead and grab your Dreambone collection devices." He tossed a file at Cha-hyun and added, "Check the civilian escape records and the reports from the team that went in before you." Min-sung, looking grumpy, thought to himself, "That jerk. He's not even part of the field investigation team, so why does he keep spouting the obvious and acting so smug?" Seeing this, Min-sung nervously whispered, "Senior, your expression. Your expression." Suddenly, a voice from behind startled him. Looking over, he saw someone smirking at Sun-woo. "Sorry to bother you. Care to make a bet on what rank it'll be?" Sun-woo looked confused. The guy explained happily, "I mean the new darkness. We usually have a little bet going. You should try it too. It'll be fun." Sun-woo didn't hesitate and refused immediately, "No, thank you." At the same time, he thought, what if we get inspected? What if our direct supervisors see this and don't stop us? Just then, Chae-kan laughed heartily. "A little bet never hurt anyone, why so tense?" Seeing this, Sun-woo felt uneasy and wondered, isn't he taking this too far even for a workplace? Seeing Sun-woo's expression, the man commented in surprise, "Look at him, he didn't even flinch. That kid's got guts." Then Chae-kan sat down calmly. "I'm just joking." "Just kidding, this darkness isn't a death trap. Lots of civilians have gone in and made it out. The Bureau of Disaster Management keeps trying to shut it down, but I hear you guys in the planning team had a hell of a time covering it up." At that moment, Min-sung suggested, "Come on, Sun-woo, you should check the files too." He took the documents with an indifferent look. "Sure." A thought raced through his mind. What matters right now is this new darkness we're about to enter. That's right, the darkness is what matters. If there are many civilian escape records, then even in the worst-case scenario, it should only be around a D rank. So there's no need to worry. Suddenly, Sun-woo broke into a sweat, squinting as he thought, "A clown." At the same time, Chae-kan played a video and suggested, "If you're ready, take a look at this." On the screen, a clown was dancing to eerie music. Suddenly, it bared its teeth and flashed a twisted, ghastly smile. The clown laughed loudly, sounding genuinely delighted. At that moment, Sun-woo felt as if red hands were grabbing at him, as if they wanted to drag him down. He muttered to himself, "This ghost story is definitely..." Just then, Chae-kan took off his blindfold and clicked his tongue. He then chuckled, "Safe travels." Hearing that, Sun-woo shouted in his mind, "Hey, wait a minute, please cancel the triple point event. I don't want to go in there." The clown's terrifying face appeared. "Clowns hate you." In the frame was the twisted face of a clown, a ghost story that had appeared in the universe. "The ghost story ID for the Daydream Corporation is OD210. Sun-woo was so scared he squeezed his eyes shut. Then, sweating profusely, he cautiously opened them. A ghost story where you wander forever in an endless long hallway filled with different clown portraits. If you look closely, that's not real clown makeup. It's the strained, forced smiles of people twisted in grotesque ways to look like clowns. The longer you stay, the more distorted and bizarre the portraits become. The people who go missing in this ghost story become the new clown portraits. Truth be told, a horror movie or amusement park with this level of terror is rare. On the outside, Sun-woo kept a straight face. But inside, he was cursing, "I don't need any of this. The entry method alone nearly scared me to death. Honestly, anyone who comes in here would be terrified. But just the way we had to get in here nearly scared the life out of me. Honestly, anyone would be terrified coming into a place like this. It's not just me, is it?" Hachi narrowed her eyes, surveying the area. "It's not as dark as I expected. Actually, it's not bad at all." I couldn't help but jump at her words. At the same time, Min-sung chimed in, intrigued. "Manager, should we let our eyes adjust to the darkness for a bit before we move on?" Cha-hyun replied calmly, "Sure. Please close your eyes for 60 seconds. He answered cheerfully, "Understood, manager, 60 seconds. Seon-woo, however, was dumbfounded, thinking to himself, "Wait, are they serious? In a hallway filled with these creepy portraits, are they really suggesting we close our eyes for a full minute, not even knowing what might happen?" Just then, Hachi turned to me and suggested, "Juan, let's close our eyes for a bit too." I obediently followed along, speculating to myself, I guess they really are built different. These people and that lizard, they basically don't know what fear is. They're the kind of people whose heart rates wouldn't spike unless their lives were actually at stake. The type who never watch horror movies because they find them too boring. But what if those portraits started moving like they were alive? Wouldn't it be hard to stay calm then? Looking at the paper in her hand, she casually revealed, "They said if you poke the portraits, they'll jump right out and start crawling after you, Min." Song continued. "And I heard some civilians actually returned through those empty picture frames." Cha-hun nodded calmly. "I understand." Then Cha-hun's voice turned serious. "Poke every single portrait you see." Seonu felt like he'd been struck by lightning while I responded with excitement. "Understood, manager. If something jumps out, I'll signal and start running immediately." Cha-hun lowered his voice. "All right, let's repeat the trial runs. Every hour on the cycle." Min-song nodded obediently. "Understood, manager." Hache looked around and calmly reassured us. "They said they crawl on all fours, right? In that case, they must be slow. So we'll be fine." Just then, Min-song turned to me with a playful smirk. "Hwan, do you see that clown with the weird eyes up there? It looks just like a movie poster, doesn't it?" Sion-U, who had been keeping his eyes shut, stiffened. He softened his voice and said, "You can open your eyes now." When I looked, I saw flames igniting inside the eyes of the clown portraits. While I was frozen in terror, she calmly remarked, "The physical features. Oh, match a missing civilian. I guess if you go missing here, you turn into one of those things." Suddenly, Min-song turned to me calmly and suggested, "Hwan, do you want to try touching that one first?" Seonu was silent for a moment, then muttered, "Please wait a second." He raised an eyebrow, asserting, "I've figured out how to get out of here." The three of them froze for a few seconds. Then I asked, bewildered, "What, we haven't even been here for 5 minutes, and the rules say absolutely—" Before I could finish, I turned back and thought to myself, there's only one way a coward like me can survive this. Time to speed run our way out of here. I stared at the coin weapon in my hand, then flicked it into the air. Immediately, a hand appeared waving back at us. Hotch looked at it, confused. "Is that equipment only for Hwan?" I nodded calmly. "That's right, though, we'll need a few more things." Next, Seonu pulled countless 501 coins from his pocket. The white hand, on seeing those coins, couldn't hide its excitement. It lightly touched my left hand. I explained in a low voice, "This hand is an effect of the custom weapon. If you insert a coin, you can control it remotely." She gasped in amazement. "I see." Finally, Min-song chimed in. "So, is that hand the key to the method Hwan came up with to clear the stage?" I nodded immediately. "Exactly." And then Shanu said seriously, "We don't have much time. So first I'll give you a quick summary. These portraits aren't just for decoration. There is exactly one correct portrait in the middle of them." I asked skeptically, "You mean the ones that jump out and crawl toward us when poked are the wrong ones?" Seonu replied, "Exactly." He looked at the three of them and warned, "From now on, consider the portrait I describe to be the correct one when I give the signal. Let's all run and find the portrait that matches that description." Next, Seonu looked at Cha-hun. "Manager, are you really okay with this?" Seonu prayed internally. "Please, please let this work." Cha-hun didn't hesitate and nodded immediately. "Yeah." I was a bit surprised, thinking, a generous lizard who actually listens to a rookie. "Thank you so much." Min-song stretched and said, "Following Hwan's lead doesn't hurt. It's been a while since I've really worked up a sweat trying to keep up with you, manager." Meanwhile, Seonu was sweating buckets, thinking, "I'm sorry, seniors. Actually, you guys don't even need to run. Escaping this urban legend is easy if you're brave enough. You just need to take a stroll and touch the portraits along the way. But a coward like me can't do that." The clown explained, bewildered, "I just wanted to get along with them, that's all. If you got the guts, you could just stroll along and touch the vibrating footprints on the path. But a coward like you couldn't possibly do that," the clueless clown explained. "I just wanted to fit in with them, that's all." Ha-jin was confused and wondered why he was just lying there. Min-sung also looked on just as puzzled by the scene. A moment ago the guy was perfectly fine, and then he suddenly dropped dead. With a sharp gaze and a frown, he decided the only option was to run as fast as they could. 4 minutes and 29 seconds had passed since the team entered the darkness. Sun Wung hurriedly shouted in his mind, "Let's go, it's a haunted house." At that same moment in the development room, Li Gei curiously asked the manager, "Guk-an, what level do you think this one is?" The exploration team is still the safest bet, right? Chigan laughed upon hearing this. Come on now, Assistant Manager Lee, let's keep this bet within the development team. Then his voice turned serious as he warned, don't bring it up when the other teams are around. The guy looked grim and hesitated. Right, of course. Lee looked at Chigan, frowned, and thought to himself, he usually just laughs and plays along, so why is he choosing now to lecture me? He completely ruined my mood. No, wait, the person who really ruined my mood is someone else. That annoying rookie from the field investigation team. His name is Kim Sun-woong, right? I was nice enough to invite him to join the bet, and he dared to look down on his own superior. Gay, typing hard on his keyboard, gritted his teeth and cursed under his breath. Just a human lab rat, who does he think he is acting so high and mighty? A message from him popped up on the screen. I'm betting 10 on the exploration team. At the same time, he gloated and prayed in his heart, I hope he dies in the darkness. Suddenly, Chigan cheerfully reminded him, Assistant Manager Lee, remember to finish the preliminary report before you leave today, okay? Lee poutingly replied, Yeah, he thought. Why do they always make me do this kind of work? Anyway, those guys won't be able to make it out alive. Before getting off work, he stared at the screen with a contemptuous sneer. What a bunch of idiots. If an ad looks suspicious, you should just turn it off immediately, right? Why keep watching to see what happens next? Lee squinted, telling himself, I guess a few lucky ones might survive based on the statements from previous survivors, as reported before. They returned to reality through a blank portrait that the clown had escaped from. However, there's no information on which portrait is the correct one. The appearance of the hallway, the size of the frames, and the descriptions from each survivor are all completely different, so the only way to find an exit is to try over and over again, waking the clown, outrunning him, and sometimes taking him down, until you're completely exhausted. He smirked with a smug expression, thinking, since they don't know which portrait is the right one, they'll just run around in circles in total despair. Sweating buckets just like that. At least 1 or 2 of them are bound to die. Just hurry up and drop dead already. While Lee was still lost in his thoughts, Min Sung's voice rang out, sounding stunned. Clearance successful. Startled, he whipped his head around, asking himself, wait, what? What? How on earth did that happen? Has it really been that much time already? Is it time to go home at that same moment? Ha-jin chimed in, that was amazing. Sun-woong, let me buy you a coffee. Sun-woong quickly declined. No, there's really no need. Min Sung added happily, I'll buy you some snacks. Lee was shocked and thought, it's only been 26 minutes. They cleared the darkness and made it out in less than 30 minutes. Chigan witnessed the scene, unable to contain his excitement. Oh my God, how in the world did they get out that fast? What the hell? Was it Manager Lee's usual smash-everything method that worked again? Cha-hoon calmly denied it. Nope. He proudly revealed, our youngest guy did it all. Sun-woong, looking exhausted, reached up to take off his mask. Nice to see you again. He gasped in surprise. That rookie did it. Ha-jin nonchalantly stated, Juan was like this on his first day of work, too. Chigan narrowed his eyes, assessing him. Then he probed, so, our new friend, would you mind explaining the clearance mechanic? Sun-woong looked momentarily surprised and replied, sure. Chigan lowered his voice and spoke up. First off, the title of the ad you watched to enter the darkness was, The Clown Hates You. Juan immediately nodded. That's right. He continued, but the mime Pierrot is different from the circus clown. In Korea, this is a blind spot because both are simply translated as clown. A circus clown wears colorful makeup, laughs, acts mischievous, and performs magic tricks in comedy. However, a mime Pierrot is a French-style clown, with monochromatic makeup and a melancholy face. Then Sun-woong sternly asserted, the name of the darkness is the clue, so I thought that would be the only one that wouldn't chase after us. To prove this hypothesis, we searched for a portrait with monochromatic makeup. To ensure safety, we maintained a safe distance of 3 meters and touched the painting from afar. The result is, the mime clown silently vanished from the painting. After recounting everything, he seemed calm, that was all there was to it. Chigan, unable to hide his excitement, smirked to himself, thinking in just 30 minutes during his very first time inside he had already figured out the mechanism to clear the stage. It's really this clear? Suddenly he startled and blurted out, wait a minute. Next, Chigan raised a question. According to the notes, lighting it up makes all the clowns jump out. How did you distinguish the mime clown's portrait in that pitch-black darkness? Sonam looked slightly surprised and hesitated as he explained that. Anyway, the team leader spotted it easily enough. He calmly continued, Assistant Manager Park Min-sung lent me his notebook, so I compiled it into a rough guidebook. Min Sung spoke up cheerfully. I don't dare take credit for this. It's all thanks to you, Huang. Chakan, with a smile on his lips, reached out to take the documents. As he flipped through the papers in his hand, he spoke up. So you deduced all of this? Just from rough information. Thanks to you, the draft of the guidebook was completed immediately. Lai at this moment was terrified, thinking to himself, does any of this make sense? That rookie escaped in 30 minutes under such harsh conditions, and he's already built a complete hypothesis. Is that thing even human? Or is it some kind of monster pretending to be human? He just smirked and reminded him, Team leader, if you take that thing out of the shadows, you have to hand it over, okay? Chakan looked at the item in his hand with surprise. That was when Sunum calmly explained, because the mime clown in the portrait was trying to run away, the team leader lunged straight at him. He was even backing away. He stood there stunned, thinking to himself, are they a pair of monsters or something? At the same time, Sunum wondered to himself, looking closely now, both of them are quite handsome and look a bit alike. Are they cousins or something? Suddenly, Chakan asked, Kim Sonam, as a new employee, did you happen to receive a business card? He thought curiously, a business card. Someone immediately explained, he's a new employee, so he doesn't have a card yet. Suddenly, he smirked with a mysterious smile. Sonam, you're pretty good at playing dumb, aren't you? It's obvious I was talking about something else.